All right, everybody, it's 2 p.m. on Thursday. You know what that means. It's New Pope Day. So close this stream, head over to the Vatican live stream, watch all the kerfuffle going on over there. What? Oh, was that not what we're doing? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Right.
Oh, I had
Well, we.
muted myself.
Oh,
Oopsies.
well, okay.
But
Well,
no, 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 no,
while
no,
we.
no. Hold on, hold on. We all know who the Pope
Is
should
there
be.
there's something else going on today? Who's the Pope?
It should be William Nylander. Let's be real.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the almighty one. Yeah, the
Exactly.
first Swedish Pope of all time. Wouldn't that be fun?
Even though that
Um,
nation is historically Protestant,
yeah.
make
Yeah,
him
there
the Pope.
were I saw some Swedish flags at the Vatican today. There were some Catholics that were Swedish that were there, it seems. I assumed that the people who bring a country's flag all the way to Rome, or the Vatican, I should say, all the way there are probably from that place. It would be kind of weird if you were like American and brought a Swedish flag to see the new Pope. It would be kind of weird. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Pope
I
unless
do
people
like the
really want
idea of
to.
Connor Brown for Pope. Get my
Yeah, Connor
Etobicoke
Brown for Pope.
representation. My
Yep.
hometown
Yep.
boy.
But unfortunately, none of these people have become popes, so we're going to be having a show all about Pope Cope, and we're going to be moving on. But yeah, I mean, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about hockey, of course. It is Scouching Live, of course. It is 2 p.m. on Thursday Eastern Standard Time, the best time zone there is. Thanks very much for
Eastern
joining us.
Daylight Time, excuse you.
Right, whatever. I don't. You know what time it is. And what are we going to do today? We're going to talk Stanley Cup Playoffs. The second round has gotten going. We're going to talk, obviously, the draft lottery, which was a wow. And we're going to do a little bit of a mock draft for the lottery picks this show. So we're going to get to that in the back half of the first hour. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And I can't wait for the craziness. I think that based on what I've been reading and scouring the internet for and reading mock drafts, this draft is going to be a hoot. And we have plenty of time. We have a month and a half left for real craziness to go down. And I think it's going to get wild and crazy. So we're going to get wild and crazy ourselves at the end of the show in
How
the first
about
hour.
as crazy
Yes.
as Leafs for Cup?
Yes, yeah, there we go. Yep. I have to give AJ permission to get all the Leaf stuff out now. So AJ, take it away. I didn't see the game last night, so you can say whatever you want, and I won't be able to tell you you're incorrect. So take it away.
Here's what I will say. William Nylander is awesome. What a goal, by the way. Just to like get the puck in such little time and space and put it in. I can never stop gushing about that man. Mitch Marner is no longer a wuss because he's a dad, and he proved it by scoring pretty immediately. But I think the biggest thing that I take away from that series and so far of this whole Leafs playoff is that this is a team that is tremendously composed. Florida tried to rattle them early. They ran into Joe Wool right off the rip a bunch of times, and the Leafs gave it back to them in a calm, composed manner and did not take as many penalties. And ultimately, I think they went out because of that composure. And I'm quite surprised. They're navigating the Florida Panthers very well. And I feel like that's really been the difference in this whole series is just they are, like the Leafs in this playoffs, are the most resilient I've ever seen them.
I mean, 2 1-goal games. They've had to close them out in both situations, and they've done it. And yeah, I mean, I only saw the highlights from last night, but I mean, look, the one thing I also noticed on the Marner goal and even the Domi goal, I guess you could say, something I'm noticing the Leafs are doing a little bit more than in previous years is just taking chances. Just like Mitch Marner put one on net from the boards and it just went in. Like the chaos of the playoffs can sometimes be capitalized on by not chasing those extremely high danger chances from right in front of the net, which is I think what the Leafs strategy in past years has been. They look for that, like, it's almost ironic to me that the Leafs, to me, are a team that chases high expected goal values because they're nerds, and teams know that and they can counter that, right? And I think they can clog the middle of the ice, and they know Toronto's just going to keep trying to funnel pucks there over and over and over again. But now you have something like Mitch Marner just going like, "Meh, here we go, blip, put it on net." The power of the new child from above. Puts that puck in the net and the game-winning goal. It turned out to be the game-winning goal.
Yeah.
So things like that. That Max Pacioretty
He's
tip
been
on the power
awesome.
play goal was beautiful. He's been really good. But I mean, Yeah, I don't know. I can't say too much about the game because I didn't see it. According to the NHL, Toronto almost won 2/3 of the faceoffs as well, which
Yes, that's
in
what
a
they
situation
do.
like the playoffs can make a difference. Um, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Would you consider what you're seeing in this series so far? Because you've seen a lot
Yep.
more of it than I have. Would you consider it like a Toronto is in the driver's seat thing, or do you
I
think
would
this
say
still goes
yes.
deep?
I would say
Yeah.
yes, but I would not be surprised if this goes the entire distance because Florida is also a resilient team, but they've seemed a bit more rattled, which has been really surprising. Like the message was, we're like I think Scott Lawton even said this, like, how are we gonna, like a reporter asked, how are you guys gonna respond to Sam Bennett doing what he did in game 1? And he just flatly said, win game 2. And that's what
Yeah.
they did.
I
There's
mean,
this
that's the right
calm,
answer.
composed
Yeah.
just feeling about this group that I'm really liking. And everybody who I've criticized on this team throughout the regular season is pulling up their big boy pants and actually performing. OEL's been awesome. I can't even deny it. He's been so good, just breaking up plays defensively and moving the puck out. He's been one of the better players. But also Morgan Riley, man. Playoff Morgan Riley is a real thing. And this guy plays dead all year, so you forget about him and think he's washed and bad, and then he comes out and just delivers. I love
Yeah,
it.
I mean, he did get eaten alive on that Brad Marchand goal, but I also, from the first game that I saw, game one, but it seems like these guys also were rolling in game two. But that line of, or the pairing of Lundell and Luos Torinen have been really good. They each had a point, two points last night. Um, and those guys have been noticeable every time on the ice for Florida. I don't think they're dead, but Toronto does seem to, from what I've seen, like the team with more juice, you know, and I think Florida is the team that's sort of on their heels a little bit and trying to bring Toronto down to their level rather than the other way around. So we'll see. I mean, it goes back to Florida. I feel like if Toronto splits the home games in Florida, it's going to be tough, I think, for Florida to come back because I don't think Toronto really has played as if it's like, well, they're barely winning these games. They're like trying not to lose, right? Like it's not like that, I don't think. They
It's
get out,
not.
they jump out early, they get going, even if they started the game down 1-0 yesterday, but they didn't spend that much time down. So, yeah, I mean, here they are and they're in the driver's seat and I am going to withhold because this is still the Toronto Maple Leafs. You never know, but they
It's
do
a
seem a
different
little bit
feeling.
different.
It's
They
a
do seem
different
like a bit of a
it's a
different
different
vibe than
feeling.
previous years. So we'll see what happens.
But I'm ready to move on from this because
yeah, I don't have much else to say. It's still early in the series. Yada yada yada. We can move on and get moving here.
and there you go. No more Leafs talk for the rest of it until I say goodbye.
Yeah, until it inevitably comes up talking about like the Oilers or something. But
I'll
anyway,
keep it to a minimum. I promise.
producer boy, where do we go next?
Where do we go next? Mik-GOAT Rantanen.
Mik-GOAT Rantanen. Yeah. Winnipeg Jets lose to the Dallas Stars in game one. Again, Mikko Rantanen. Hattie. Is that two straight? That's 2 games in a row with a hat trick.
He
When,
scored, I swear to God, I think it's like 11 points in the last 4 games or something even more insane
yeah.
than that.
When was the last time someone scored hat tricks in back-to-back playoff games? I don't remember when that has happened previously. But yeah, I mean, again, I saw the highlights of this game. So I
So,
don't
okay.
know a ton, but yeah, so like I don't know exactly what to say about this game outside. I mean, I just am looking at the stat sheet from last night
Mhm.
and I saw the highlights, but I don't know. Were you up
Yeah.
watching this
Yeah.
game last night?
I
Okay.
I am a degenerate, so I stay up quite late to watch games. And honestly, the first period really good from Winnipeg and especially Connor Hellebuck, and he was good until he wasn't. And also, Mikko Rantanen is just disgusting. Like, there's really not much more to say about the way this game went. I feel like Mikko Rantanen has just been in full takeover mode, and it has been so crazy to see because when he first came over to Dallas, like he did not score a lot of points at all. Like I think he was getting memed on a bit. People were like, "Oh,
Yeah.
Logan Stankoven has more points than him." We were on that trade as like a joking thing, just because if it makes us look smart, we agree with it
Yeah, of
because it's
course.
Logan Stankoven. We love him.
Yep.
But Mikko Rantanen, a fringe top 10 player in the NHL. That's what I said before, or like when he got traded, it's still how I feel about him, and he's proven it. He is just disgusting. Just he's so huge and so good at putting the puck in the back of the net. It's just kind of ridiculous what he can do, and he moves
finds the ways.
super well.
Yeah.
Also, like that, this is a guy who's just a complete package, and he's not a Nathan McKinnon merchant, as he might have been accused of not too far, not too long ago. Not too long ago. Yes, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's totally understandable. I mean, we'll get to the Carolina game, but who scored the only goal for the Carolina Hurricanes in regulation that game?
Stank.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Looking at the game sheet, Winnipeg outshot Dallas. They went 0 for 4 on the power play when Dallas went
tough.
1 for 2. They out-hit them 46-24. Take that for what you will as well.
Sorry, who out-hit who? Winnipeg
out-hit.
Okay.
Winnipeg out-hit Dallas. And, I mean, look, I don't know. I mean, I think Winnipeg is just – we saw what happened with them against St. Louis. They're not down and out ever, you know. I think it all hinges on Connor Hellebuyck, you know, giving up 3 goals in 8 minutes it looks like, and then that was enough to lose the game.
Yep.
Not ideal, but I mean, I don't remember watching the highlights and going, "Wow, Connor Hellebuyck should have had that one." So I don't know, but again, I was out. I was out last night.
He just wasn't what Connor Hellebuyck is, right? Like this team is built around this star goaltender who.
Yeah,
honestly, is worth building a team around in a lot of ways. It's just like he's gotta be at a godly level all the time in order for this team to be excellent, which sometimes is not, like, especially how he's been in the playoffs. Like, it's not something that they've been able to rely on. But he's still excellent, and it's like I would not go away from Connor Hellebuyck, because he's still one of the very best goalies in the league.
Someone commented to look at Scott Arniel's comments about Game 1, and I'm doing that now. And
he said it was sloppy, man.
This is one way to put it, that it looked like Game 45 in the middle of December instead of Game 1 of Round 2. And so, yeah, I think they might have a little bit of a fire lit under them for Game 2, especially because they're back at home. We'll see. I think this is going to be a banger of a series, though. Like, from what I saw bits and pieces of last night's game, it looked like a ton of fun and a crazy game. But
also, that Mark Scheifele goal, so nice.
Yeah.
Just, I love watching Mark Scheifele shoot pucks into the back of the net. It's just something that's really just a lot of fun to see.
Really rifled it there, eh?
Man.
Just pounded it into the back of the net. Attaboy.
Like, he's such a good goal scorer, and it is just a tremendous pleasure to see him put the puck in the back of the net. But watching him defend, but hey, he's got the offensive punch.
Yeah. That's not what the money is for, you know?
No, that's not what you don't want your number one center to defend or anything.
Yeah.
But still a good player, and I love watching him.
Yeah. All right. Well, where do we go now?
We
Oilers,
go to
Vegas, or Carolina, Washington?
Let's go to Carolina, Washington. Let's just sort of keep it a consistent theme.
To me, I watched this game, and it is so funny to me how Carolina is just always the Carolina Hurricanes. Like,
yes,
every single game you never don't get a Carolina Hurricanes-esque performance out of the Carolina Hurricanes. Like, over a 2-1 shot advantage in the game.
I think they had like overtime 70 shot attempts in one period.
They had, they had like 100 shot attempts in that game or something. Like, it's crazy.
They doubled up how close the next team was too. Like, I think it was like 76 and maybe not double it up, but I think the closest team that's not the Carolina Hurricanes to having that many shot attempts in a single period had like 34, 36.
They're just chaos. Like, they're just all high event hockey, chaos, play hard,
puck to the net, puck to the net,
puck to the net, puck to the net, puck to the net, puck to the net. Yeah, like, who cares? I mean, I'm gonna go look. Just give me a second.
The one problem with that is the goal that was eventually scored on them was because of just like them taking a dumb shot attempt and then it going the other way, and Shane Gostisbehere kind of pooping his pants. In a very Shane Gostisbehere-esque type of way. But then he was good the rest of the game, so...
I just want to look at the game data from that game because I want to see the heat map of the shots.
It's just going to be from everywhere.
Yeah, probably.
and
You're
anywhere.
probably right. Yeah, you're
Because
probably
that's
right.
all they
But
do. Like I
yeah,
swear they have taken this analytics thing to like literal like, hey, we got to
the
get the highest
extreme.
sample. The highest sample we can get. The more shots we get, the more likely we are going to score, you know? And I think
Yeah,
that is definitely their mindset and philosophy.
yeah,
And it is a mentally draining thing to know,
yeah,
holy crap, we have been outshot 40-2.
yeah. So just for the record, I'm looking at it now. I can't show it because it's a paywall thing, but
Okay.
the Washington heat map for shots last night or the other night was or the other day was like literally all just a blob in front of the net. Carolina's looks like an octopus. This big red octopus with a bunch of stuff from in front, but all the way out to the blue line, and then all the way across the blue line is just this like octopus looking thing. And I feel like that's basically how Carolina plays, right? Shots on net, chaos in front, keep pounding the net. That's basically it. And that's what they did. And in this game, it worked. Both teams went 0 for whatever on the power play. And obviously, Logan Stankoven, the greatest player to ever play, scoring the game tying goal in the third period there. Jacob Slavin, overtime winner on what
Yep.
was the second shot of overtime. And of course, in Carolina fashion, Washington had 0 shots in overtime. Um, so, I mean, this is going to be a very interesting series. I think that it's almost like they're kind of polar opposites, it seems. Like Washington is very structured, very careful about how they move the puck up the ice. They're very sort of team oriented and everything. Carolina is not that, but they do it in a very different way
They're
where it's
run and
like
gun a bit.
they have their run and gun style physical intensity that just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, and it's like no matter what is the situation on the ice, it's like let's just keep funneling to the net, keep going to the net stuff, and we'll see which one prevails here. I thought this game tilted a little more towards Carolina from what I remember of it, but at the end of the day, that also might just
It
be
felt like a lot of
me being
Carolina to me,
biased, but yeah, it
honestly.
felt like a lot of Carolina. So we'll see what happens, but this is going to be a good one too. I mean, all of these series I think are going to be really really good because I don't think there's a single team that I've seen in this playoff in the second round where I'm going these guys are going to get steamrolled here, right?
The only
I
one that I
mean,
was maybe worried about was Winnipeg, just because of the volatility with the goaltending at
sure.
this
But in
point.
terms of like the actual game end to end, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
no, that's
I
fair.
don't think there's any of that, which is always a good sign for what's to come. Like I don't think Washington's cooked. I don't
Nope.
think Florida's cooked. I don't think Dallas or sorry, Winnipeg is cooked. And yeah, I mean the last series we can get to is Oilers Golden Knights.
Sure.
Which I think if anything that's the series where I look at it and I go, "Oh, like
This is the most fun, I think,
it is the
personally.
most
Because the
fun."
Oilers are
But
just, dude, I swear they don't wake up until you punch them in the mouth. Like
yes.
that is the Edmonton Oilers. It is
Yeah.
get down, respond, and try and punch back
They're
harder.
they're like a really drunk UFC fighter at a bar where you don't know they're a UFC fighter or anything and they're just wasted and they get into a bar fight, but then their UFC instincts when they're drunk are still there. You know, it's like you know you might get a couple of shots in on them and maybe you beat them because they're that drunk. But if they come to their senses and they go, "Oh, I need to fight. I'm in fight mode now." They'll beat the crap out of you. And I don't know. When I watched this game, and it was the same. It was a similar kind of feeling for me, at least with Edmonton, as that game wore on, where I kind of thought it was a little bit of a microcosm of the first round series against LA, where LA
Yes.
looked like the team that was going to win that series for the first few games, and the vibes in Edmonton were bad. But in this game, that instead of taking 2 games, took
Two
10
goals.
minutes, yeah, 15 minutes. And then I felt like the rest of the game, the shots for the rest of the game after the first period, which were 10-10, the rest of the game was 18-7 for Edmonton in 2 periods. So Vegas got 7 shots on net in 2 periods against the Edmonton Oilers
A
with
team
that
that
defense group.
cannot defend,
Right.
generally.
So the game I thought was really tilted towards Edmonton to the point where I looked at this one and I went, if I had to pick a series where it looks like the one team is significantly more ready for this than the other, it might be Edmonton because they just seem to be in that mode now where, again, it's like Connor McDavid being the captain of that team, flipping that switch. It's like, okay, now it makes it infinitely more difficult to defeat that group. But I mean, it's Vegas though. They're big, they're physical, they play hard. Like you can't they might be able to grind their way through this. But yeah,
But
I
also,
thought
to be
that I
fair,
thought
they
that
were
back half of
without
the game was
Alex
a good
Pietrangelo.
microcosm.
They're without
Sure.
Dorofeev. Like
Yeah.
Pietrangelo, well, he was their leading goal scorer,
Yeah.
Dorofeev, which is crazy. I think he had like
I know.
30, 35 goals,
Yeah.
somewhere in that
30
range.
something, which yeah.
Who would have
Yeah.
put on their bingo card 30 plus goal scorers, Pavel Dorofeev and Alexi Protas? Not me.
I have no clue. It was not me, and I don't think anybody really had that on their card. But yeah, I mean, I don't have a tremendous amount about this one either, other than the fact that like with Edmonton and the just pure offensive ability and the speed, like that Zach Hyman goal was really really nice in that game. Obviously Evan Bouchard with a couple of assists as well. Connor Brown obviously has become the Pope. But yeah, I think Edmonton just looked like the better team in that game, and I think they might that LA King. I would not be surprised if we in a week are looking back at that LA Kings series and going, okay, those first two games were like a wake up call, and we'll see if Calvin Pickard can sort of keep going. I mean, if he's only facing 17 shots in a game every night, then they
You
should
should
win
be
these
fine,
games.
but
You should
Vegas,
win these games.
I imagine Vegas is going to come back and take the next
Yes,
one. And if they
it's possible.
don't, well, it's not going to be
Yeah,
easy for them by any means. But I feel like they've
yeah,
got to have a response game. And they started the game super well. Mark Stone, just excellent. Excellent
yeah.
play in that game. Like, I'm going to bring it up with Evan Bouchard again because he was soft AF on that first goal. Just lets Mark Stone get right in there and tip it. I think it went off his foot, but
Yep.
he just allows Mark Stone to get body position on him. And then Evan Bouchard plays an outstanding game of hockey after they go down 2-0. So, like, that's what he does.
Give and take. He's a give and
That's
take.
what he does.
That's what he
And
does.
you know what? I absolutely love him for it
Oh,
because,
I love Evan
yeah,
Bouchard. He's just such a riot. Like there needs to be Evan Bouchards in the NHL where it's like you just some of the time you go, yeah, there's nobody like him. There's just not many players in the league that are
don't you
like him.
worry,
And
Calgary
on
Flames
both
fans.
extremes,
You're going to have one of those guys.
it's possible, right? Like it's
Potentially.
possible, maybe, like a guy who is just so incredibly offensively gifted, but then sometimes outside the offensive zone, you're just like, what the hell is
I
happening with this
cannot
guy
wait
right
for
now?
Battle of Albertas with Zane Parekh and Evan
Oh,
Bouchard. Like
yeah,
that is going
it's
to
going to
be
be amazing.
yeah, it's going to be incredible.
They're going to the highlights in those games are going to be crazy,
And they're going to be on both
and they're going to be on
sides of it.
both sides. It's going to be awesome. I love it. It's so much fun. I love guys like that. It's just a hoot, It's high flying skill, but man, you make some mistakes sometimes. But anyway, I mean, with Calvin Pickard, he's 5-0 in the playoffs now with an 891 save percentage, which you can't say is always a good
Better than
recipe
Connor
for long-term
Hellebuck.
success, but it is much better than Connor Hellebuck, and it works. Until this point, it works. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, I don't think Vegas is out of it, but I do think that my impression of the games that I've seen coming out the other end of it, watching Vegas against the Oilers, I went, the Oilers looked like they gained some momentum here, and like they looked like the
But
better
they're
team.
volatile. They're such a volatile
they are.
team that I
That's true.
can't really gleam if this is going to continue in their favor the entire way through because
Yeah.
sometimes they just have complete lapses where it just goes all to hell. But it
Yeah.
feels like they've been able to recover a lot better from these lesser positions that they get themselves into a lot better and manage it.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but I'm just
Yeah.
excited to watch it tonight. And
Yeah. Oh, tonight's going to be awesome. Like, just, yeah. These series are going to be awesome. I'm so excited. I mean, the second round is kind of when things kind of like mentally slow down a little bit. Like the first round is like pure adrenaline and constant hockey. And then I feel like the conference finals and the finals are when it sort of picks up again of like the end is in sight. And I find that there's like a bit of a lull in the second round, but I think these series specifically are going to be really, really, really good. Especially like Dallas, Winnipeg, and I think Toronto, Florida is far from over. I think they're all.
I've been enjoying that
gonna be really
series
good.
for
Yeah.
selfish reasons.
Well, yeah, for obvious selfish reasons, yes, of course,
The
but
la-
that's
the-
understandable.
The one thing I didn't mention, I don't think, I'm just gonna get it out of the way. Joel's awesome. Like they have such good goaltending all the way
They
through.
are lucky,
And Matt
to
Murray's
have
the
those guys.
is the third. Like
Yeah,
it's better than all the Oilers goaltending at the moment, which is kind of funny. And Edmonton's still winning
Yep.
games and doing well. So
and Yeah, and it
I would
makes your life way easier.
I would kill. Well, not actually, because I don't actually have that in me.
Yeah, careful of what you say on the internet here, man.
But I would love to see an Oilers Leafs final, just
That would
because
be
it would be awesome.
insane.
It would be
That would be
awesome,
insane. Insane.
and I'd
Bonkers.
scream at Rayanne the entire time.
Oh, yeah, we'd have like there would be war in our Scouching Discord's voice channel there. It would be verbal warfare,
Oh yeah.
I think. Yeah, it would be pretty wild. Well, do we want to move on
Yep.
and get to what I imagine everybody's here to probably talk about,
Yep,
which is
let's do
the
it.
post NHL draft lottery drama and craziness, and a bit of a mock draft. So obviously the Islanders winning winning the lottery is hilarious.
It's like the
Not because
Elmo
I like,
gif, right?
yeah,
The flames.
yeah, the flaming dumpster. Yeah, like I don't and it's not because I hate the Islanders or anything. It's just really funny to me that like the Islanders, who are a team that often are trading draft picks and just are a bit more of an older team that like very until very recently was like inexplicably going to the conference final and things, and now they get the first overall pick after not really tanking, you know? So obviously it's an
Yeah.
unlikely thing happening, but the Islanders, the Islanders didn't tank, and now they ideally will get the best player in the draft. And then of course on the second go around, another team that was not the Utah Mammoth, I should say, had a one. It's going to be weird getting used to that, by the way. 1.5% odds of being drawn at all, and they won the second draw, and
I
now
love
they
it.
are picking fourth overall. It is going to be like I saw the NHL.com's mock drafts this morning, and holy effing shit,
E.
it is a wild ride about who like, and I don't know, maybe there's I'd have to go back and look and see if like there are people who actually do correlate pretty well with the NHL draft. I don't think there are any, because like who would have had like a Beckett Seneca at 3 or 4 or 5 on their list in May last year? I don't think anybody did. Um, but in any case, it's going to be a wild ride. And I'll say this too before we get into the specifics of the mock draft. I am a lurker on Reddit. I lurk and lurk. And we are, by the way, organizing an AMA on the hockey subreddit. So we're doing that sometime in June. But I lurk. And my goodness, fans are like despondent about being like 8th instead of 6th, or like 5th instead of 4th. And it's like, guys, you'll be fine. Like,
Do your
especially
homework.
this year. I was talking to a scout the other day, and they said it was so funny. They were like, the first 5, 6 guys in this draft I adore and think they're awesome. From 6 or 7 until 26, I do not care. It's just whatever. They're all equally okay. And I fully agree with that. Like if you and I will also say this, like if that makes it sound like, oh my goodness, I'm picking 6th, 7th, or 8th, I'm gonna have my pick of the litter of the rest of that group. But teams will go off the board. I am certain of it. It always happens that teams will look at something that sounds completely ridiculous nowadays and go, this is what we're gonna do. And it pushes a guy that, like I'm seeing mock drafts with Porter Martone going to Seattle. Like
Wait, that
just
late?
like,
Why?
yeah, like my thing is relax, like calm down, and also like it'll be fine. Like the draft is one little thing, and yeah, I mean even picking first overall, like there's a whole bunch of stuff that you could do, like I don't know, I'm not totally convinced that this draft is like, if you do not draft first overall, you will not get a player even close to that good. The
No, it's
draft
only
very
if you
rarely.
draft third overall that you won't
Yeah,
get a
I mean,
player
like,
close to that
and
good. But
and imagine
I'm being
imagine
a
if
bit.
at the Connor Bedard draft I told you that Adam Fantilli after 2 years would have more goals than Connor Bedard does, right? Like you'd probably look at me like, what in the name of God are you talking about? How could you ever possibly think that like an Adam Fantilli would at all at any point be more valuable than Connor Bedard? But I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying like the draft is often a lot more, at least at the top end, a lot more compact and more of a group thing than it is like this like immediate intense drop off in ability. So let's breathe, and just see where the chips fall, because I think this season especially could be really something, really, really, really something. But let's get into this.
Cool.
So we're going to obviously start with the New York Islanders. And the way I personally like to do mock drafts is like I do kind of where I would go if I were the GM of the team, or like where I think that team is going to go, which factors in like their tendencies and like how I think they seem to like the game to be played, which I think
Okay.
it's a really good insight. I think the draft is a really good insight into like how teams want to play the game in the NHL. But I mean, for me with the Islanders, like I could very easily see this being Matthew Schaefer. Both I would do it, and I think that they're gonna do it. Like obviously he's been hurt. He hasn't played a ton this season, but when he has played, he's been outstanding. We all saw him at the World Juniors, right? Like he's outstanding, and I think
Yes.
there's a ton of really good upside there. He's one of the youngest guys in the draft as well. So there's tons of upside there, I think, and developmental room. Again, if they go with like a Michael Misa here, I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think he's that. Obviously, with Lou Lamoriello on the way out, I don't think he's that type of player that like a guy like that really values. And it depends on which direction they want to go here, which I think adds a lot of uncertainty. But like even drafting a guy like Cole Eiserman last year, like he had a bit of swagger to him, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of like, you know, antagonist side to him. And I don't think Michael Misa really has that much, but I feel like a Schaefer might have a little bit more of that, and I don't know who else I probably would consider here. James Haggins has come up because he's been an Islanders fan his whole life. And I mean, I don't know. I just don't think Haggins is quite on that level of like, I would skip over these two guys just because he's a fan of this team. And like, I don't know. It's hard to say because you don't interview him, you don't whatever, but I think that it would just be like a, you know, I don't know. And I feel like there's a lot of case in my mind. There's a lot of thought where I'm going, Haggins might be a guy that slips a little bit in the draft just because of what teams seem to be
Mhm.
prioritizing and thinking about these days. So for me, I think it's going to be like, I think it would be Schaefer at one for both me. And I think in reality, I think that's what's going to happen. And I don't like 8 out of 10 scouts for Bob McKenzie had him at number one as well. And I feel like it's much more likely the Islanders will want a Schaefer than a Misa. But I think they're both going to play really important roles in the NHL. At number two, San Jose. I mean, this to me is Michael Misa. I think he is like with him and Celebrini, there's an excellent pair of centers to play around with. They kind of still need a little bit more up the middle there. They've got Will Smith, who clearly is a friend for Macklin Celebrini now. You know, William Eklund has been
Mhm.
really, really good this season there. I mean, yeah, there might be the temptation to draft his brother, but I don't think I would draft
Not
his
at second
brother over Michael
overall.
Misa. Yeah, not at second. I really do love Michael Misa, just so smart. Again, like he's not Macklin Celebrini, I don't think, in terms of like the way that Celebrini plays, but Misa's a guy that will make hit like the other thing too is they saw him play with Igor Chernyshov, and those two guys were just dominant in the OHL. And obviously, that's not a guarantee of NHL success, but it is a factor where it's like you know these two guys they played together, it worked. I think their talents offset each other really really well. So I think Michael Misa is a great fit there in San Jose. I think it makes a ton of sense. And I think they have room for a guy like that in the system. And yeah, Matthew Schaefer might be ideal, I guess, if you're looking at what they have. But I think Misa's a really, really good one.
Imagine that 1-2 punch as well. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
think about
Like,
some of the teams that compete for Stanley Cups.
yeah,
Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin. Now, I'm not saying Macklin Celebrini and Michael Misa are that level of talent, but like the 1-2 punch is so important. Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, right?
yeah. Yeah, like and looking at the centers they have listed on their roster right now, Celebrini, Wenberg, Delandria, Barclay Goodrow, right? Like I know you don't draft for the NHL right away, but I mean, I imagine Misa will be there probably not next season, but the year after if he goes to college next year, which I probably would think is where I would put him. I don't think there's any need to rush him.
Not to
Um,
interrupt this train of
yes.
thought, but do you think Matthew Schaefer goes to the NHL next year?
No.
Yeah, that's
No.
what I think too.
I don't think so. He's played 19 total games this year. Like
And
I
he's been
don't I
injured.
don't think so.
So
Yeah,
and
he's been
younger,
hurt
right? So
and
like
he had mono. Like yeah, I don't think there's any reason to push him straight to the NHL. I would keep him in camp. Look, the great thing about the NHL is you can keep a kid in camp as long as you want, and then you can give them a few games at the beginning of the year if you think they might be ready. And if they're not, they're not, and they can go back without any penalties. So maybe that's what happens with Schaefer. He gets a game, maybe two, and you see what he does and see how he did, see how he is. But I don't think he's quite there yet. I mean, he's still extremely young. Um, I just don't think he's quite physically mature enough there, and the defensive game is a little bit of a work in progress still with him. But I think at the end of the day, he's gonna be fine. I don't think there's gonna be very many players this draft who are gonna jump if especially with the option of going to college for CHL guys. But yeah, I mean, Misa to San Jose, both situations, both myself and I feel like Mike Greer makes sense. Could they go a different direction because Misa's not the most physical guy in the world? Sure, you never
I
know.
doubt it.
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it personally. Chicago.
This is where it
So
gets interesting.
and yeah, this is where things will get very interesting for me. I mean, assuming that it's Schaefer Misa off the board, but once those two guys are gone, this is where things get pretty wild. I mean, for me, I'm thinking James Hagens here. If I'm Chicago, you draft the guy who's he's a college hockey kid. You can send him back to college for another year, which I think he needs. But his play at the end of the year this year compared to the beginning of the year was really night and day. He's a really skilled playmaker. I think there's some areas of the game you can definitely poke at and go, this probably needs to be a bit better. And in terms of like getting scoring chances himself and like trying to cut into more dangerous areas himself rather than being more of a perimeter mid-range playmaker kind of vibe. But he's really good at that stuff and he's a really good skater. And I think he really is that sort of high octane guy that I think offsets the guys they've drafted. Like Frank Nazar, I love, but I feel like Hagens is a little bit more of like a offensive leaning, sort of high pace, high skill guy, whereas Nazar is just a really well rounded, all around guy who can play like a variety of roles. But like I could see Nazar being like an extremely good third line center when this team is in the playoffs. Whereas James Hagens, I don't see that at all. I feel like a second line center or winger or something at the end of the day could be a good trajectory for him, or like a center that plays with Connor Bedard or something when Bedard's on the wing. I could see that as well. I just think it opens up a lot of options for you, and I don't see many other centers or at least forwards at this point in the draft where like maybe Porter Martone, but they could be these like really high end offensive skill first, playmakers who can kind of score as well, kind of players that you could offset a guy like Connor Bedard with. In my gut, though, I mean, I don't think this is what the Blackhawks are going to do. I have a feeling because based on what they draft, outside of Connor Bedard, they have not really drafted pure skill upside guys. Like they just have not done it, right? I mean, Oliver Moore is an energetic and speedy guy who I think is a great 200-foot guy, but I don't know how well his offense will project to the NHL at the end of the day, but it could. But like a lot of these guys they've drafted, Vanaker, Boisvert, Levshinov, like they're very more sort of balanced, I guess you could say, and more physical in a lot of ways. And I mean, Hagens is kind of like that, but I don't think it's as projectable to the NHL. I think he's just doing what's necessary to earn an NHL job in the physical area of the game. So for me, I could easily see them go with a guy like Denoyer here in my gut. Just you listen to the way that people talk about Caleb Denoyer, and I disagree. That's well known amongst viewers of the show, but they talk about how he's like a winner. He's a physical guy, 200-foot impact game. They talk as if he checks every box you could want in a guy that helps you win. I don't agree with that necessarily, but he's not a bad player at all, right? I think he's just a guy that plays in your middle six, really well balanced player at both ends, I suppose, but much more of a playmaker in the offensive zone. Like if it's a guy like Caleb Denoyer playing with a Connor Bedard will score a bunch of goals. Like Denoyer is very, very, very good once the puck is in the offensive zone at timing passes, setting up plays, creating space for himself. That's where he really shines for me. And he is a physical player. It's not like he's soft and doesn't hit or whatever. I just don't believe that it's going to be a difference-making ability in the NHL. But again, similar to Hagens, he'll check the box. He'll do it. So for me, I mean, I could see him being a guy that jumps up towards the end of the year, especially if he ends up in the Memorial Cup, and he's been very productive in the playoffs to this point. And I feel like there's going to be a lot of momentum to look at a guy like Desnoyers ahead of a guy like Hagens.
So you want me to do a little recap comment type thing? So, and just so everybody's clear, Will's brain is, I'm going to title the first section of it, which is, this is what Will would do at each of these picks by the order he's selecting at. Will's gut is what he thinks these teams are going to do.
Yep. So the gut gets bigger every year, by the way.
Yeah, so I'm just going to try and get it to post nicely.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll let you do that. But I mean, I'll just vocally do it for any podcast listeners. But the top three for me, if it were me, it would be Schaefer, Misa, Hagens for Islanders, San Jose, Chicago. But my gut, I think it would be, it could be Schaefer, Misa, Desnoyers. And also, like, the other thing too, the guy who seems to be ahead of the curve on a lot of NHL based things that surprise people is Corey Pronman. And he seems to think Caleb Desnoyers is going to go very, 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 very high. So I'm also kind of mentally preparing myself for that to be the reality. Utah is up next. And for me personally, I would probably, I was thinking a center for them if I'm them, but then I thought, I don't really draft on need. And I think it's Porter Martone.
Yeah.
Like, I would probably go with a Porter Martone here. You have him with guys like TJ Ginla. They don't really have high-end centers in the system, but saying no to Porter Martone means you're drafting, to me, like I don't know, like if you want a good center in this range that I think makes a real big offensive impact, I don't think they exist. Like, you're going to get an Anton Frondel, who's a pretty good 200-foot guy, but I feel like he's at his best on the wing. I've got Bill Zonin really high, but I think 4 is way too high to take him, especially with Martone on the board. I just feel like you go with a good player here and try to add some centers elsewhere, or focus on that elsewhere. So for me, I think Porter Martone is probably the best player available that I would look at if I'm Utah. And he's got some size. He's got a bit of a physical edge to him, but he's more of a playmaker, more of that sort of finesse style player, which I think Utah could also use a little more of. And he's also not small. And I think outside of TJ Ginla, they are a team that largely drafts large players by default, basically. Radim Murtka is the guy that I think, in my gut, though, they might really look at. And I with Dmitry Simashev, that was one where I called it well in advance, where I thought, you know what, if you can find a guy at that size with that range and that defensive ability, you're going to have teams really looking at this player, even though he doesn't score a lot of points. Radim Murtka scores quite a bit, but I don't believe that that's going to be his future NHL role, really, based on his play with Seattle. But I just think that Utah's going to look at a guy like Murtka. They have a guy like Simashev, who's a lefty. They're going to look at a guy like Radim Murtka and go, what if we have him and Simashev on a pair together, right? These two guys, one's a lefty, one's a righty. If things work out, those guys are going to be unstoppable. Imagine they have a Chris Pronger plus Scott Stevens on a pair together, right? Like, it's like, obviously I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm trying to put myself in the headspace of an NHL team. And I think there aren't many defensemen in this year's draft that have that kind of a tantalizing upside to an NHL team. And Utah loves their big guys. They love to draft size. And for me, I mean, I could see him become the second most useful defenseman in this draft. I think he's a bit of a ways away from that. I certainly wouldn't rush him to the NHL, but I think Murtka at 4 after Desnoyers at 3 might make some sense here. And you get lots and lots of time to see him in Seattle. If you're in Utah, he plays like half an hour a night, or played half an hour a night. He can go back to the WHL if you want. You can send him back to Czechia if you want. There's lots of options for him. And I think at 4, if I'm Utah, that might be the direction I would go that makes sense for them. Where are we now? 5.
Pick. That's your gut pick.
That's my gut. Yeah. I mean, for me, it would be Martone, but I think in reality, Murtka could be the guy they look at there.
Do you not think Martone would also be somebody that they'd look at? Because I feel like that's one that they would definitely.
I just don't. I think I get the feeling that NHL teams were primed to see Brady Tkachuk in Porter Martone, and instead they got, Blake Wheeler. And I think teams are going to go, oh, well, they're watching the playoffs, right? And they're going to go, is this going to be a guy? I know, but I'm saying, like, from an NHL person's perspective, they might look at this and go, do you win with a Porter Martone on your team, or do you win with a big, rangy, defense-first guy like Radim Mertka, who will stand in front of the net, cross-check guys, push guys out of the way, monitor defensive rushes pretty well, and chip in offensively, perhaps, like, I wouldn't do it at fourth overall, but I see the appeal of a guy like Mertka. Adam Larson, someone just commented, Adam Larson. I think Adam Larson's a pretty good comp, honestly, with him. Where Larson was a point scoring guy in junior and in the SHL when he was young, but turned out to be more of a defense first, defensive leaning kind of guy in the NHL. So who knows? For fifth overall in Nashville, if it's me, I am putting Victor Eklund here. I mean, I look at them, for me, I think if they had their way and James Hagens were available, that would be an easy call for me. And that's my gut pick, is James Hagens here if he's available in this order. But for me personally, I think I'd go with a Victor Eklund. He has been in a men's league all season. He has been an elite possession player at that level. He has been a huge part of his team earning promotion to the SHL. Anton Frondell played, I think, like 2, 3, 4 minutes in most games of that final series. Victor Eklund played minutes, like he played. So he's in a huge role in a tough situation. And I think he's the type of guy who, even like, they drafted Teddy Stiga last year in the 50s, and Stiga has shown himself to be a really good performer in many, many situations. And obviously, you could say it was luck or whatever, but he scored the gold medal winning goal at the World Junior Championships, and he's a clutch kid. He's a fast, aggressive, clutch guy. And I think Eklund is a little bit of that. He's not perfect. I think you need some time to develop. I think the SHL would be a really, really good spot for him next year. And I think you develop this sort of more threatening offensive ability for him, where he's trying to get a little deeper into the offensive zone, create a little bit more around scoring areas. But off the puck, I don't think there's a single player in this draft that I think is better and more projectable off the puck than Victor Eklund. Like, he is an energetic, physical, intense guy, and he's doing it against men, right? Guys who have played in the NHL before. These guys are 10, 15 years older than him, and he does not look out of place there. So I think that's valuable. But in my gut here, I could see them going James Hagens. I would be very surprised if they've watched Teddy Stiga all year this year and last year. Well, not last year, because Hagens wasn't there, and neither was Stiga. But I feel like if they've watched a lot of Stiga this year, they see what he is like playing with a James Hagens. They played together at the U18s last year. They were teammates in Boston College this year. I think Hagens played his best hockey with a guy like Stiga on there to sort of offset the speed of Hagens's game, as another guy with a lot of speed who can play with him. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think he's a really high upside pick that Nashville just kind of doesn't seem to have a ton of in their system. Like, they've been pretty good until recently, and they have a lot of wingers in their system. I think a guy like David Edstrom is a center, and I think he becomes an NHL player in some way. But they've got a lot of wingers who are doing good work. You could argue they could go for a defenseman here. Tanner Molendyk is on his way. But in my gut pick here, like, who's available? Jackson Smith. I could see Jackson Smith. I thought about it. I thought about Jackson Smith here, but I don't know how you don't look at Hagens first if you're Nashville. And I think he'd be a really, really good fit there and bring something that they kind of need. But it really comes down to what Barry Trotz is kind of looking for. But considering who they've picked in the last few years, I could see Hagens being an option here. Philadelphia.
6.
Yeah, number 6, Philadelphia Flyers. So the Flyers, I mean, if it's me, I also kind of take the approach of, like, who do I think fans there would really love that would actually, like, fit in with that culture and the team? And for me, I put Anton Frondell down here. This is higher probably than where I would draft him, but I think he would be a great Flyer. Like, I think he would be, whether he's a center or a winger, whatever, like, you can take whatever, I don't know, at the end of the day. It could go either way. I don't really care. But at the end of the day, what you are getting is a really, really projectable, strong, powerful guy who pushes results really well generally. He's got some skill. He goes to the net if you need him to. He's a really good sort of one-touch hockey player, right? You get him the puck, he makes the right decision pretty quickly, which is often what you need in the NHL. He'll play hard off the puck. He'll throw hits. He'll do what you need him to do. He plays that style of game. He's got a really good shot as well, so there's a bit of a power play threat potentially there from him. He's a good player. I think Frondell would also endear himself to Flyers fans. And I think this is around the range where he's probably going to go in reality, even though in my gut, I put Porter Martone here if he's still available. So just to recap that side of things, Schaefer, Misa, Desnoyers, Mertka, Hagens, I think Martone would be the pick there. I think he's a bit of a different flavor of what I think Flyers fans really love in a player, where he's not that, ratty jerk, physical intense guy, or like a high pace, high energy dude who's a bit like that, like a Konechny. But he's more of like a leadership style player where he has so much skill and so much playmaking ability and such great pass vision around the ice, where I'm sort of going, he just sort of leads by example on the ice and works off of his line mates really, really well, while also being a really good forechecker and a really good physical player along the boards. And I think with a guy like Mik-GOAT already on the team, and looking at who they have in their system, they've drafted a lot. But like guys like Denver Barkey could be on the way in the future. They drafted Jet Lachenko last year, so they aren't shy to go to the OHL. I mean, most teams aren't. But I mean, I look at it as entirely possible that if Martone is somehow still there, I think the Flyers take a good look at him, because I think he checks a lot of the boxes for what, in my opinion, Flyers fans and Flyers people kind of look like. I could see that being an option as well. So there's that. Then in Boston. Now, Boston will be very interesting. Boston loves big guys. Boston loves physical guys. Boston loves just guys. For me personally, if I'm the Boston Bruins, and this is going to be a hot take, so you'll have to excuse me, but this guy, I've been doing a lot of rewatching of the U18s and a lot of rewatching of the tape I've got and some footage of guys, and with Jordan Millette, who's doing the same thing. We were doing this the other night and I was just bouncing around. You know who I think would make a really, really good Boston Bruin and would be a really interesting addition to that roster is Bill Zonin. It would be very
Oh.
off. It would be very off the board at this point, according to most people. But Bill Zonin is a guy who, over time and time again this year, when I watch guys and then guys around him on my list, I go, I feel much safer about Bill Zonin than a lot of these other guys, being a competitive playoff style guy who I think brings a lot of potential. I don't think he's going to be a first line guy. I don't think he's even going to be maybe a second line guy, but he is going to be a valuable person for the team that drafts him. And if I'm Boston, what are you looking for, right? It's hard to say because they haven't drafted high very often at all. But if I look at Bill Zonin, he's a guy where he's not an amazingly technical skater, but he is fast. He gets around. He's big. He throws hits. One of the best forecheckers in the data set that I have for this year. One of the best forecheckers at generating turnovers in the offensive zone. One of the best generators of shot assists for others on his line. I think he got a lot more comfortable playing center over the course of this season, from October until the end of the season. Someone mentions Brady Martin. Honestly, I think Bill Zonin plays at a higher pace of play. I think he plays with more projectable skill. I think Brady Martin is more of a heavy hitter, but Bill Zonin, he does the other thing, which is just get into the boards, battle for pucks, quickly make plays off of generating those turnovers. Not saying Martin doesn't do that, but Zonin, I think, just does it in a way that they both might end up in similar roles in the NHL, sure. But for me, I think if I am betting on physical, energetic guys, I personally would bet on the guy who is just an absolute mammoth of a hockey player at times. Like he could be, I think, a very physically overwhelming player to deal with. Brady Martin might be a player that you don't want to be carrying the puck across the ice against. Sure, right? Like we saw him do some stuff at the under 18s, but I've seen so much of both of these players over the course of this season, and not for a second have I thought, if I'm playing in the NHL playoffs, I want Brady Martin over Bill Zonin. and I might come to regret that, sure, right? You can pull the clip and make fun of me in 5 years. But Bill Zonnen's scouting report's coming out next week, and I rewatched a bunch of what I had on him, and I just keep finishing games of him recently and going, I like him more than a lot of these guys that he's around, and other guys I think just have fallen below him in my list, and he is very, very high, and I could see him being a great Bruin. In my gut, though, at this point, I made a boo boo in my thing here, so let's fix that. Um, so we'll do this. I'll put Anton Frondell here in my gut. If Frondell is still available, I could see Frondell being the guy. Similar what I just said about Philadelphia, I think he's just exactly what Boston kind of likes. And I feel like that could be a good fit. I don't know what else to say because we kind of went over it with Philadelphia, but in this range, yeah, I could see very easily. I could see this. Seattle. So Seattle is very interesting. They have drafted almost universally forwards really high in the draft, which I understand, and they've gotten a bunch of good ones. So what did I do? I gave them another forward. I personally here think Colin Potter would be the guy. Again, people might think that's nuts. I'm stunned that people are talking so much about guys like Brady Martin at the under 18s. Probably rightfully so. He was quite good. But you watch the American team this year, Colin Potter was outstanding. And I think if you are Seattle, if I am Seattle, I am thinking bet on upside. They did this with Berkeley Catton last year. They've done it with guys like Matthew Beniers in the past. They've drafted guys outside the first round who have a lot of upside. And I think Colin Potter they have Chandler Stevenson on the team. I think Seattle could see a guy like Colin Potter and go, this guy, I know there's no way Seattle passes on a defenseman here, but I don't see a guy like Jackson Smith as more valuable than Colin Potter. I don't think Seattle really cares that much about position. Otherwise, they wouldn't have drafted 4 straight forwards with guys like Zane Parekh on the board, Cardiac,
Zeev Buium.
but Zeev Buium was on the board and they passed on him, right? So I think Seattle is only interested in drafting potentially what might be the best player that they could get. That's, I think, their only focus. So for me, I look at a Colin Potter and I go, the potential with him is sky high. He's not perfect. I know there are some people out there who really don't like him, but I watched him go from NCAA hockey back to the under 18s. That US team looked completely different when he was on the ice. And I think that I'm surprised that people haven't gone, oh, this guy who's been playing NCAA hockey all year, 2007 kid, first, second line center for Arizona State University. That's a big role. And of course, he's looking like one of the most skill-wise and speed-wise dominant guys in the U18s. So for me, I look at this and I go, yes, my gut here would put Jackson Smith down, because I don't think in reality it's going to be Colin Potter. And if it's not Colin Potter, I think it could be a defenseman. And Jackson Smith does have a lot of talent, and I think there is a lot of upside there. But outside of that, for me personally, Colin Potter's the guy, and I think in Seattle he would be an awesome addition that would give them another weapon in the tank. That at worst case scenario, if you got to trade one of these guys in 3 years for a defenseman, you could do it easily. You could do it very easily, I think. But for me, Jackson Smith at 8 makes sense, and I think in reality that's also a way they go. I've come down on this over the last little while where I think about it more and more, where I'm not 100% sold on the idea. But if you want to bet on potential, want to bet on upside, want to bet on skill and talent and all of that, Jackson Smith has quite a bit of it. And I think his under 18 was kind of iffy, I think. But at the end of the day, I think you do see a lot of potential there. I think there are moments with him that in isolated moments are some of the most impressive of any defenseman in the draft. And he's in a weird, if he goes to college, especially too, for next year or maybe the year after, I could also see some real upside come out, because I don't know if Tri-City is the best place for him to play. But good upside pick. I think that would be a good one for Seattle there too. Buffalo. Buffalo is weird. I don't know what I would really do if I were Buffalo at this point. And again, in this point in the draft, you could go a bajillion different directions. But if I'm Buffalo, I think a guy like Lyndon Lakovich makes sense for them. I think he fits a lot of what they're looking for. They are not afraid to draft wingers. Yes, I look at them and I go, I guess you could argue they could use some defensemen in the system. But I mean, you've got Owen Power already there. You've got Rasmus Dahlin already there. I imagine Bowen Byram is gone, and they don't really have a defenseman in the system where I look at them and go, that's a guy you can offset guys like Power with or something like that. And so you could say they need a defenseman. But at this point, the only other guy I might consider, well, Jackson Smith would still be available if it were my world. And maybe that's the direction they go to. I just don't see Smith as like a fit for what Buffalo typically kind of drafts. Logan Hensler also came to mind here. I could see Logan Hensler maybe being an option, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think he has a little bit more of that calm finesse and simplicity to his game that I just feel like Jackson Smith can sometimes lack, which I feel like Buffalo maybe is what they're looking for a little more of. But Lakovich, really smart. I think if the Buffalo Sabres are really trusting their sort of data science work and this sort of these guys who sort of understand the game, I think Lakovich is a good example of that. So if I were them, that's probably the direction I go. In reality, for similar reasons, I would say Jake O'Brien might be a guy I look at here. For me, Jake O'Brien, like I think I wouldn't draft him this high, but for me, I'm looking at him and going, I see a guy who could play in the NHL. Where I was talking to someone the other day, and they were like, a big thing that people look for is guys who can play off of contact, guys who can work off of pressure, guys who can deal with opponents and work around them and make plays and whatever. And I think he does that really well, Jake O'Brien. I think O'Brien is a guy who will skate himself into trouble sometimes, but he'll find his way out of it in really creative ways. And I think that if he can learn to only do those things as a last resort, and focus on that pressure play when he has to, then I think you could have a really interesting player here. He's a great playmaker. He defers to his line mates a lot and really well. He chips in defensively. I wouldn't say he's going to be like a reliable 200-foot guy, but as a middle six center that can sort of glue that team together a little bit and help some of their goal scorers score a little more and all those things in a couple of years, I could see Jake O'Brien being a good option here. Anaheim. So Anaheim is very interesting, and I personally, for me, I think if they're looking, I mean, considering what they announced this morning and considering the types of players that it seems like Pat Verbeek likes, Jackson Smith comes to mind. I know they have a lot of young defensemen, but like, are they going to have an Olin Zellweger in the lineup long term? They didn't play him a ton this year. They've played, I mean, guys like Jackson Lacombe have out sort of shined him a little bit on the roster, at least ice time wise and games played wise. Pavel Mintyukov is there, and he's kind of a thing. But like, in terms of, they drafted Stein Solberg last year, but I just think that the Anaheim Ducks are a team that is thinking that like maybe they could go for a Brady Martin here at 10 if I'm them. That was probably the other option that I could see them doing, and I could see that as well. But Jackson Smith, if you wanted to bring out the meanness in his game and like the physicality while having a lot of skill and finesse, and I think Pat Verbeek might look for that type of player, I could see them going this direction, and I probably would go for it. But in my gut, I think there's more to build on and more upside there than a guy like Brady Martin. Or even, I mean, in this world, Reddy Murtka's still available, and I think I would still go with Jackson Smith over Murtka, but that's getting pretty close for me on my own list at this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It could be the one. It could be the one that I could see there, but in reality, look, I pulled this one. I pulled Roger McQueen, and I think my logic behind that is, I mean, I think in reality, Roger McQueen could be a guy that slips in the draft. But if I'm Anaheim and thinking like Anaheim and seeing how many times they've drafted in the last few years, I think they can afford to be a bit risky. They already have a lot of young players on the team who are performing pretty well. Hopefully a new coach can like bring them to a different level of play. And I think if they make some good depth signings, they could make their team better pretty quickly. I think they could look at their team and go, well, maybe we could afford to be a little riskier with this pick and take someone who is perceived to be, really, really high end and undervalued because of, because of his injuries. It's a risk. 100%. It's a risk. And I wouldn't do it, right? I don't have Roger McQueen in my mock draft on my side of things, but in reality, I feel like someone's going to see him and go, 6'5" center, 10th overall, 12th, 15th overall. We're looking at this and going, yeah, may as well. And I know that the sentiment out there on this draft class is not super positive. And Roger McQueen is one of the utmost sort of what if guys that I've seen in a long time, according to NHL people. And I think that Anaheim, of all the teams in this range, probably could look at this and go, yeah, this could be a really good ad for us. And maybe he is, maybe he is. And I could see that happening. That's the end of the top 10. So we'll recap the top 10. My picks for top 10, New York Islanders, I'd send Matthew Schaefer. San Jose, Misa. Chicago, Hagens. Utah, Martone. Nashville, Eklund. Philadelphia, Frondell. Boston, I said Bill Zonin, which I still think is crazy, but I stand by it. Seattle, I would put Cullen Potter down. Buffalo, Lyndon Lakovich. Anaheim, Jackson Smith. And on the gut side of things, where I think teams could actually go, Schaefer to New York, Bisa to San Jose. I put Desnoyers to Chicago, Mertka to Utah, Hagens to Nashville, Martone to Philadelphia, Frondell to Boston, Jackson Smith to Seattle, Jake O'Brien to Buffalo, and then Roger McQueen to Anaheim at 10.
I'm working on a recap graphic for the end of things as well. So we'll have stuff that we throw in.
So the last 6 picks here. Now I have to think on the fly because I screwed up with Caleb Desnoyers earlier. But so for me with Pittsburgh, again, this is just me, and it's a bit of a hot take, but I thought this guy was also really good at the under 18s, even though his team kind of got embarrassed at the end of it. But if I'm Kyle Dubas and I've got Wes Clark in my system now, and I want to draft a nerd, I think a guy like Eric Nilsson could be an interesting pick. It's 11th overall. I know that in this world for me, I've got guys like Desnoyers, Mertka, Martin, all available, which, look, hey, I get it. They're all CHL guys. People have seen a ton of them. They have a ton of thoughts on them. And everybody's reading all of the mock drafts with these guys, top 5, top 10, whatever. I personally just don't think there's as much potential there as there is with a guy like Nilsson. Nilsson is a nerd. He is so smart, really, really good skater. I think he has moments of being a really high-end scorer as well, but his ability to distribute the puck, move it around, make guys better around him, and also be just a defensive presence, a 200-foot center who brings it everywhere. I very easily could see a team like Pittsburgh thinking outside the box and going, maybe we do go Nilsson. Really good analytical player as well in my profile. Overall, one of the better ones. And I know that there's part of that thinking there going on with Pittsburgh. He played in Hockey Allsvenskan this year, and I thought didn't look out of place, but he will need to physically develop. So if you want to make the he needs to develop argument and not draft him, and you want to go for someone more physically developed, then sure. A guy like Mertka makes sense if I'm Pittsburgh. Brady Martin, sure. Carter Bear could be an interesting option here that I would be okay with. But for me, if I'm thinking upside, which I always think upside, and if I'm thinking nerd and playmaker and passer and all of these things that I know that Kyle Dubas seems to like, Nilsson comes to mind, and he's not afraid to draft sort of smaller players. I mean, Nilsson's not small either. I think he's 6'1", 6'2". He's just thin, I guess you could say. But now I have to think on my toes here about who they could actually go for here in my gut. And honestly, because I screwed it up.
Will is a screw up, ladies and gentlemen.
I am. Yes, I am. You know what? Let's do this. I'm going to put Logan Hensler there. I know it might be a little bit spooky to like not have. I know in real life, a guy like Kayshawn Aitchison probably goes in this range, if not higher. Sure, I get it. But I look at Pittsburgh and I still think that they're going to see things through the lens of more of a finesse approach, mobile skater first, just a good, smart, balanced hockey player who does have some offensive potential. And I think Logan Hensler he fits that mold very, very much. And I could see him being a guy where if you want a defenseman, um, then I think he would be a really, really good option in this range. He's got some good size to him, 6'2" ish. Again, like his point production wasn't incredible, but I think in this year's draft, you are hoping that you're going to get a guy who, moves the puck, skates well. And I think he's come a long way this season, honestly. He's playing a lot of minutes in college. I would leave him there for quite a while. And he's a guy who I think just brings a good sort of 200-foot impact on the game. I think his defensive side of things needs to be refined a little bit. But he's a right-hand shot, really rangy, really mobile. I've seen some flashes of some really good skill out of him as well. And yeah, he's gonna be an interesting player to track. So I think if I'm Pittsburgh and I'm thinking with my Kyle Dubas hat on, he would be an interesting option in real life, I think, in this area. The Rangers at 12. So here for me with the Rangers, I put down Logan Hensler. Again, I have Hensler. The other one I thought of was Denoyer at 12. Again, I know for all the people who don't actually watch the show, I know Caleb Denoyer is going to go way higher. But in my world, I just don't value him as much. A guy like Logan Hensler, I think him or Denoyer makes a lot of sense here. I think Hensler is a guy who checks a lot of boxes for the Rangers. College guy, really mobile, really rangy. I think he brings a little bit more offensive skill, but if they wanted to sort of make him into more of that K-Andre Miller style of player, I could see that being a pathway forward. They seem to develop defensemen decently well. He's also kind of physical as well. Hensler does have a bit of that in his game, but I think for the Rangers, he's an interesting option to reload with. But a guy like Denoyer also makes a lot of sense. It's just, I feel like Hensler has a little bit more upside, but I'm not going to, at this point, if I'm the Rangers, I'm not splitting hairs. If I'm sitting at a table with this list of guys that have gone in my world and a bunch of scouts are like, no, we want Denoyer because he should be gone by now. I go, all right, fine, fair enough, whatever. You're going to be fine. The other one for in the reality gut sort of vibe, I'm thinking Brady Martin. I think in reality, sure, Brady Martin could be gone earlier. But like, look, the under 18s, a lot of guys weren't there, right? Like if Logan Hensler were at the under 18s or, if Victor Eklund were at the under 18s, like let's all go back in time and remember what Victor Eklund looked like at the World Juniors. Like people were talking about Victor Eklund as like, oh, this is what he's all about. And he was awesome there. But people seem to have completely forgotten about that, even though it happened, right? Brady Martin played in a worse tournament against objectively worse competition and was physically dominant because that's what he does. I still think Brady Martin is a good player. I think this is a good range for him to go. And in my gut vibe, I still feel like it's just other guys might be more appealing with their upside to NHL teams. And he would make a lot of sense going to the Rangers at 12. Would I do that? Probably not. But I don't think I would take him much later than this. But he's a really physical guy who I think fits what the Rangers are looking for. He does have some offensive tools as well, but his best assets are just physical. He goes to the net, finishes. Like a lot of his production at the under 18s was guys like Xavier Villeneuve or Cole Reshny or Lev Katzen even really cooking around the perimeter or whatever, driving pucks inside, whatever. And then Brady Martin got the rebound. Brady Martin was the powerful guy in front of the net, clearing the space to get a stick on the puck and put it in the net. He did have a really nice goal against Sweden. Like there was a nice skill move on the outside to put the puck between the legs of a defenseman. That was a savable goal. Like the Swedish goaltenders in this tournament were not good. They were just not very good. So I don't know. I look at a Brady Martin and I go, look, like if you really want a guy who's good at hitting guys and is probably going to be a fine NHL player, right? Like to me, you watch a guy like Adam Lowry play hockey, right? He's a captain for a reason. Would you draft Adam Lowry 6th overall? Probably not. Like, but I guess you need guys like him on the team, and it's nice to have them around. So how much do you value that? And at this point in the draft, sure, I could see it being valuable, and I think the Rangers, it would be a good fit there. Do I think he could play this kind of style in the NHL? Well, that's the thing, right? My thing with Brady Martin is he is a very physical player, but I would not mark him as particularly speedy. And I think with the puck on his stick, quarterbacking play himself, that's where his game is quite limited, more limited, I should say. But I still think that he's going to be an NHL player. But again, like, I don't think he's going to be one that's like on the front of your mind every single time you watch a team play, which at 12th overall, that's where those players kind of come from a lot of the time. They're there. You don't notice them as the headline story of a game, but you do need guys like that. So I think it's possible, but I do think people are getting a little bit carried away with like, holy crap, look at how much he scored against a bunch of children from Slovakia, right? Look at against the Czech team that they almost lost to in the quarterfinals, right? Like, yes, they won 7-0 in the gold medal game, but if you look at the advanced data from that game, that was much closer than the numbers would indicate, at least until things got out of hand. So anyway, I'm getting off the pedestal here. I think Brady Martin makes a lot of sense if I'm the Rangers here in real life. And yeah, but if it were me, I think a Logan Hensler could be a nice sort of balancing point for like a direction I think they need to go without abandoning what the Rangers are all about. For Detroit here, I would do Caleb Denoyer. I mean, at this point, it makes sense to draft him. I still think that like he plays a really balanced and responsible style of play. I just don't know how it projects to the NHL. And like, I still watch the Moncton Wildcats and I go, he's on the ice. He's a very important contributor, especially once the puck is in the offensive zone. In terms of timing and creativity, well, maybe not even creativity, but like his sense of timing and awareness of space in the offensive zone, he just drives great results. That's inarguable. But I find watching that team, he's sandwiched between Uri Pikarczyk and Julius Sumpf, who are older, more physically developed, bigger, and I would say faster. Those two guys are freeing up pucks, creating turnovers, driving play out of the defensive zone really, really well. And I think allowing Desnoyers to lean more offensively, because I don't know how much I trust Desnoyers' defensive side of play. But I think he'd be a really good, balanced playmaker first who does have good goal scoring instincts. He's going to be a player. I think you're going to get a guy here. I feel like it's this like, is he top 3, top 5 level guy, right? Like Levshinov last year. I liked Artyom Levshinov last year, but not as a top 2 pick, right? I thought that was a little crazy, but he's a fine player. Caleb Desnoyers, I think, is a fine player. He's got talent, he's got upside, and I think he's got really, really good offensive ability, but I just don't see it as like this top 5 level guy. So just want to get that very clear. But I think Detroit here, it makes a lot of sense. And honestly, though, looking at the guys going off the board, if it were me, as high as Buffalo, Anaheim, Pittsburgh, that's when I might start thinking about it if the guys ahead of him are off the board. Like I have Zonin off the board already because I think Zonin, I trust him in an NHL playoff game to be a guy that I can really depend on. Fast, physical, intense, go to the net, keep it simple, play off the chaos, do the thing. Whereas I feel like Desnoyers is much more like reading defenses and sort of working off of where pressure is and timing his passes really well, which in the playoffs, I don't think you get an opportunity to do as much of as often. So, and that's always what I'm thinking about in the draft when it comes to this kind of thing. But in my reality world, dude, I there's a bunch of options that were left on the board here, but I think this could be where Keyshawn Aitchison goes. I think that for Detroit, he would be a really interesting fit. They've drafted some finesse players in the past. They've got guys like Edvinsson in the lineup. Axel Sandin Pellikka is more of a finesse defenseman. They're playing Anton Johansson, or they're playing Albert Johansson, which I don't know if that will last forever. But these are all sort of more finesse guys. And they're not afraid of drafting beef. They're not afraid of wanting that on the team. They've signed guys like Ben Sherratt. And I think that it would be nice for them to go, once Ben Sherratt's contract is over, it would be nice to have a Ben Sherratt on the team. One of these rallying points, these guys who will electrify teammates because of how they play. He's got some finishing ability, I guess. I'm on the record not being as huge of a fan of him
Everybody knows that, but I do think there is a role for him in the NHL, and I think that role will be really well served with Detroit. And I could see it. I think fans would love him there, and you do need a guy like Keishon Eacherson for sure on the team. I just wouldn't draft him this high, but it does. There's a role for him here, and I think with Detroit, it makes a lot of sense. Um, as long as you keep your expectations in check, of like this is going to be one of those. I want to say like Radko Gudas style players, Ben Sherratt style players, where it's like, would I pay them $8 million a year? Probably not. But for the role that they bring, I see the value and they're valuable in a way. And I think that Detroit could use something like that. They've got a lot of skill, they've got a lot of finesse on the defensive side of the things. And I think they might look at this as like one of the last sort of young pieces that they might lack in their system. Columbus Blue Jackets are at 14. For me personally, at this range, I'd go Blake Fiddler. I think Blake Fiddler, they have a Denton Mateychuk, but they traded David Jiricek. There is a bit of a gap there for potentially having defensemen in the system. They should at this point have their offense set. They've drafted a lot of offensive guys, a lot of skill. Scoring wasn't necessarily their issue. I think Blake Fiddler makes a lot of sense. I thought he was really good at the under 18s. There's skill and like a lot of creativity. He was doing more of that Lane Hudson thing at the offensive blue line at the U18s, shaking off pressure and using skill to his advantage. And I think if you can coach that into him a little more, you could have a really interesting sort of dynamic 200-foot guy. He's young. He's got size. I think there's a lot of boxes checked that in this range of the draft make a lot of sense. And for almost literally the exact same reason, I put Malcolm Spence down for them as guy that they might be looking at. He's more of a physical side of things. He's more of an energy forward who competes and grinds and all these things. But I think they do kind of need something like that in the system. They don't have quite a lot of that. They've already got a guy like Caden Lindstrom floating around, which is a bit of that. But having Caden Lindstrom and Malcolm Spence on the same team one day could be very, very interesting. They've got a ton of offense already. And I don't know if Malcolm Spence projects as like a really dominant offensive player, but he could chip in offensively for sure. And I think on and off the puck, he'll be a good player. And I think in this range, he'll be a useful pick and pretty solid. And I think in reality, this is around the range where I think it could be that he starts to go off the board. And then you've got Vancouver at 15. And Vancouver's a bit of a wild card. In my gut, for me personally, at this range, I probably would have gone with Blake Fiddler had he still been on the board. But for me, Radim Murtka's still on the board, and this is where I would go with Radim Murtka if I'm Vancouver. Like someone mentioned Tyler Myers. I think we were talking about Murtka earlier. I don't know if I would call him Tyler Myers. I would say like who was the guy that probably is kind of more like Tyler Myers in this year? There is one, and maybe Jackson Smith is more like a Tyler Myers. But for Radim Murtka, I think he checks a lot of the boxes for what NHL teams are looking for. I still think he's going to be a good sort of middle pair, minutes eating guy. He's got great range. He's a good stick checker. I think he's still got those like defensive zone issues where it's like he's losing battles against players he should probably beat. And I feel like there's a bit of work to be done there, but he's big and he's got the size and the skating ability, I think, to do it. He's probably gone way before this in reality. In my world, he is, but this is around the range where I have him in my list. And this is around the range where I would really take a look at him. I thought he was okay at the under 18s, at least at 5-on-5. And the only reason we would be opposed to Murtka for the Canucks is you have Hronek, Myers, Mancini, Willander, and Juleson. Well, I mean, it seems like Willander is not super happy with Canucks management, so we'll see what happens there. I certainly wouldn't pass on a Murtka because you have Victor Mancini and Noah Juleson. And Philip Hronek is kind of like, he was good with Quinn Hughes, and Quinn Hughes is just fine without him. I don't know. I mean, Myers isn't going to be there forever, and Radim Murtka is not going to be there for a little while. So I think at the end of the day, you are going to be you're going to need a guy like Murtka. There's going to be a role somewhere for him, right? So I don't know. And I feel like teams will always default to defensemen, and a guy like this at this point in the draft is pretty tantalizing, even if he is more of an Adam Larson style of player. But in my gut, if Victor Eklund is there for Vancouver, I think they're going to hammer it. I think Vancouver would go for a Victor Eklund. They are not afraid to draft out of Europe at all. They see the developmental advantages there. I think Eklund is going to slip in the draft because why wouldn't he? He's small. He plays a bigger guy's game. He hasn't played in North America very much at all. And he hasn't played. And by the time of the draft, he won't have played games in quite a while. So yeah, I think Eklund is a guy that will be there for Vancouver. And if he is, I hammer it. And if I were them, I could see them doing the same thing too, even though he's a winger, even though this and this and this. But if he's there, I could see him being a very good Vancouver Canuck, and fans would love him. Unless Vancouver Canucks look at a guy like Nils Höglander and go, Swedes are lame, or look at Tom Willander and say, good riddance. We don't want another Swede until the day we die, which I don't think you should do, especially if it's Victor Eklund. Montreal at 16. For me at this point, I put down Brady Martin. The other one that popped up was Carter Bear, but I think I look at the Montreal system and I go, a center is kind of where I would look, like a guy that I could see on the third line in 5 years, and a really good one at that. I don't think Martin is going to be a huge offensively, 80 point a season guy, but I could see him being a pretty dependable 200-foot, guy that can hold his own in the playoffs. The Montreal Canadiens have a lot of skill. Hudson, Caulfield, Demidov, obviously. Like, they've drafted a lot of that, and I think that a little bit of stability and physicality and energy, even if he ends up being a winger at the NHL level, I think would make a lot of sense. Like, you've got Michael Hage as well, who's another skill player. And I think that just like looking at who else would be available for Montreal at this pick, it would be who else would be available for Montreal? Like Carter Bear, like I said, Braden Coots, Jake O'Brien, Justin Carbonneau. Like, none of these guys really scratch the same itch and NHL projectability that I think a guy like Brady Martin does. So that's probably the direction I'd go. But if Martin's already gone, which in my gut draft he is, I think Lyndon Lakovic here. I know I just said they drafted a lot of skill and they have a lot of that, but Lakovic is really good. Lakovic is a really, really good player. Someone said they want Bill Zonin. I honestly would not be surprised if Bill Zonin were the guy there either. And he did cross my mind. But I do think that a guy like Lyndon Lakovic makes a lot of sense. Really skilled, big, rangy playmaker who's a really good mid-range shooter, super efficient. I think he's going to come off super well in interviews if they value guys who want to learn and study the game and really understand what's going on, which I think Montreal kind of does like. And he's also got a bit of swagger. He's the captain of his team. And I think Lakovic makes a lot of sense for Montreal there. So let's recap the whole thing. So this is me. Just to recap, this is if I were in the driver's seat of these teams, this is the direction I would go. For the Islanders, Schaefer. For San Jose, Michael Misa. For Chicago, James Higgins. For Utah, Porter Martone. For Nashville, Victor Eklund. For Philadelphia, Anton Frondel. Boston, Bill Zonin. Steamy take. For Seattle, Cullen Potter. Buffalo, Lyndon Lakovic. Anaheim, Jackson Smith. Pittsburgh, Eric Nilsson. New York Rangers, Logan Hensler. Detroit, Caleb Denoyer. Columbus, Blake Fiddler. Vancouver, Reddy Murtka. Montreal, Brady Martin. I might value some of these guys a little less, but I'm thinking if I'm running these teams, they could be good fits. But in my gut, in terms of what I think those teams are going to look for, I have Schaefer to the Islanders, Misa to San Jose, Denoyer to Chicago, Murtka to Utah, Higgins to Nashville, Martone to Philadelphia, Frondel to Boston, Smith to Seattle, O'Brien to Buffalo, McQueen to Anaheim, Hensler to Pittsburgh, Martin to the Rangers, Aitchison to Detroit, Malcolm Spence to Columbus, Victor Eklund to Vancouver, and Lyndon Lakovic to Montreal. So I can't wait to be wrong. Yep, I can't wait to be incorrect. I can't wait for the takes and the yelling and the screaming and my inevitable YouTube shorts on this. But yeah, so that's the way she's definitely going to go. And if it doesn't, and you make a bet on it, and you lose, you can come see me and take your free punch in the face.
Not financial advice.
No, yes, this is not financial advice. Boy, I need a drink of water. That was a lot of talking without water.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. Let's get into the questions and then get out of here. So, obviously, the first question of the day: would you take Matthew Schaefer or the Pope first overall? Well, the Pope is American, so he's automatically better than Matty Schaefer, because Schaefer's a weak Canadian who, whatever you want to call it. So
Don't talk smack
a
about
60
Matthew Schaefer, man.
a 69-year-old American, when those are on the board and leader of the Catholic Church, you gotta hammer it. You gotta hammer it. You win with those guys. Habs fans, 16 and 17, over 6 foot forwards who I should get excited about. Well, being realistic, let me just pull up my thing here. I would say around that range, maybe Lyndon Lakovic, Bill Zonin. That's a little high according to the average, but him. At the very highest of his highest moments, I would say Shane Van Sage as well. Jake O'Brien, maybe. I don't know if he's like a what you're looking for big guy, but yeah, and he also may very well be gone by that point from what I'm reading about. So yeah, I would say any of those previous ones. Martone feels like such a good fit mentally with Bedard. Help me feel better about the pick being inevitably Frondell. Feels like he and Nazar would work well in the second line, but Bedard. I mean, I agree. I mean, like Frondell will be like, you drafted Merrick Vaneker in the first round last year, and I feel like Frondell is a more projectable and better Vaneker, where it's like he's maybe not the guy you want holding onto the puck all of the time, but he'll play physical for you. He'll generate turnovers. He will play hard every shift. He won't really make that many bad decisions, I don't think. Really smart off puck player, pretty decent finisher. I don't think he's the best matchup with Connor Bedard, but he could be. I just don't know if he's also like a center in the NHL. Whenever I've watched him this year, I mean, obviously it's not done, and I would definitely, if he could be a center, I'd want him to be that instead of a winger, but I think his best hockey is played as a winger. So we'll see what happens with that over the next little while. But yeah, I mean, for me, picking Frondell over Martone would be questionable, but I could see it as somewhat reasonable. The Utah Mammoth better pick Martone. Maybe. They did for me in my world, but in reality, I don't know. You never know. He doesn't throw as many hits as people expected, I don't think. All right. Could you see a world where the Blackhawks pick Higgins and move Bedard to the wing? Yes. I could see those two playing well together, extremely well together, in fact. So yes, that honestly would be probably the strategy that I would take. So yeah, I could see that. Are you going to be doing a report on the top 3 in the draft? Yes. So yeah, reports are coming out. There's going to be more next week. I'm going to be recording more tomorrow once my voice recovers. But yeah, usually I let those really, really high end ones wait until literally right before the draft, because that's when there's obviously the most eyeballs on the channel. So those guys, like the really high rated guys, are probably going to be a little later on. The next ones coming, for example, are like Cullen Potter, who I love, and Bill Zonin are the next ones. But we're going to do like Cameron Schmidt, Caleb Denoyer, Jake O'Brien, Logan Hensler, I think, is on the docket. Those types of players for a little while, maybe a couple of like diamonds in the rough type guys. Like I'd love to do one on Svirchek before too long. Maybe some others, but anyway, we're going to get to those. But yeah, the best top names that are likely going earliest are usually the last ones that come out. Unless you're like Artyom Levshinov, who I did like midway through last year, and he went second overall. So yeah.
I have the graphics ready if you want me to roll them.
All right, so let's roll the graphics, and then we'll get back into the questions. So behold, the graphics that AJ has made. Hopefully it's me with a big dunce cap on top. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so again, this is just how I might push things in a certain direction. If I feel there's also, for example, guys like in that later part of the top 15, I have guys like Michael Svirchek ranked in that region, but I don't think I would, if I wanted a guy like Svirchek that high, I'd just trade down, you know. But if I had an option to take like a Desnoyers and run the chance that I can get a guy like Svirček later on, then that would be, I'd rather have Desnoyers and then Svirček later than Svirček and someone who's more of a, I don't think, high end guy later on. So that's kind of also part of the game as well.
I'll roll the other one when you're ready.
Yeah, roll the other one. This is where I actually think teams might head in the direction of. Obviously, there's still tons of time between now and the draft, but I do think that things could shift quite a bit, and you never know. But yeah, I mean, I know there's a lot of people talking about Brady Martin right now, and fair enough. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't, but we're still a month and a half away. Plenty of time for people to think things over again, look at combine results, think about how they interview kids at the combine. Not saying that Martin won't interview well, but this is kind of how I could see things shaken out a little bit. But those are beautiful graphics, AJ. Well done. Good job.
Thank you. I whipped them up as you were talking because I was not sent a list prior, so I literally did that on the fly. So if there were any issues with the stream, it is because I was exporting those graphics.
Beautiful. No, it's beautiful. It looks great. I mean, I've been super busy the last little while. I didn't have a chance to put this together until like 1:30 p.m. today.
Yep. I'm like, hey, how about a mock draft today? Because I think it makes sense. And then we made Rayan make a new thumbnail for Rayan.
We did. We're putting him through a lot.
We ended his Marvel Rival session a little too early.
Yeah. Well, it's not like you can't go back and play it again, right? It's it'll always be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless the servers have gone down, which would be sad.
All because of me.
But yeah, very appreciated though. All right. What else is on here? Yeah, good thing the Leafs. Yeah, I actually got a message from Joel Henderson last night going, man, it's a good thing the Leafs traded Rasmus Sandin and Timothy Liljegren and all these other guys because they're better now. And yeah, definitely. I mean, having Anthony Stolarz and Joseph Woll be really good also helps quite a bit.
It does. It's just like, I think I'm ready to say that there's other ways to win than the way I would try and attack it. It's just I have a really tough time giving up those kind of players with the team I would personally want to build.
Yeah. And that's
fair.
But
if you win, you win. And like, I can't argue with that.
Rasmus Sandin is also in the second round of the playoffs, if you wanted to make that argument.
He is.
So, it does it. Yeah, anyway. I think the Habs could use someone like Barazanen or even Spencer Van Seghe. They could. That's the type of player that I thought they could use. I just think if Lyndon Lakovic is there, it's really hard to say no. But yeah, I think Zonin would be an awesome Montreal Canadian. I mean, he's from Montreal. Like, if you wanted to draft a guy from the place where your team plays, and I mean, they did that before with Louis LeBlanc, and it really didn't work out. But Bill Zonin is quite a player. He's a guy who I think Montreal fans like. I really don't think the expectation that he would be an elite offensive producer for that team. But if you see him go over the boards and play Bill Zonin hockey and do what he does, I think Montreal fans would have a pretty good time watching him play. And you'll see his report soon. And you'll see. If you're a subscriber to the show, though, you'll get these tonight. I'll be finishing them up after we're done the show. So if you subscribe to Scouching.ca, you'll get access to both him and Colin Potter tonight, and then they'll come out Tuesday, Wednesday next week, and then we'll have another one Friday.
And for those who aren't subscribed on YouTube, we're really close to 9,000 subs. Like, I think it's about 60 subscribers away. So please smash that subscribe button.
I want 10. Get me to 10 so I can get
10K,
I want my frankincense YouTube play button. That's what I want. I want my
do you get a play button?
No. 100,000 you get a play button, and then 1 million you get another one, and then 10 million another one.
Did you get one at 1,000?
10,000 I just want like a sock with my name on it or something. I don't know.
A pair of socks that
No, just one.
Okay.
Just one sock. Yeah. I'm not there yet. I don't get the pair yet. Okay. Yeah. Don't get
one
the pair
that
yet.
says Will, and then the next one will say Scouch.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I was going to say something that would make our backdrop a little bit nicer here than my 3D printer and dehumidifier and a yoga mat over here and a Peloton bike.
But you got the
I think
Buddha.
We can do a little better. But yeah, I've got this guy. Yeah, this guy up here.
Why don't we make him the Pope? Just cross religion. Just cross religious boundaries.
I might be a little too progressive for both sects of religion in the world. I enjoy that you post scouting reports on hidden gems and not necessarily top picks. Yeah, I mean, I would love to have more views for sure, but I mean, look, I see my job as an analyst, right? Like, content creation is a nice way to put stuff out there. But I like watching hockey players, and I like good ones, obviously. and really understanding what makes them so interesting.
Yeah, we're not
So-
fake news here, okay? We don't
Yeah, we're
sell
not
we don't
fake
we don't
news.
sell hype except
Yeah.
for when we do it sarcastically.
Yes, sarcastically.
And it's very
Or
clear.
if we think it's very deserved, right? Like if we think it's deserved that there should be hype, then yes, we'll do it.
Yeah.
Like
William
making
Nylander.
hope. Yeah.
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 I love how you knew right away where to go.
Yeah. Well, of course, I will never forget. I through the darkest days of his career in Toronto, I held fast here, and I went, all of y'all Bowmanville doofuses,
All
who
you
think-
Bowmanville bozos.
yeah, Bozoville, all of you from all Bell Vegas bozos, yelling and complaining that William Nylander is too fancy or too bad defensively. He's turned out to be quite a good player in the playoffs, and he always has been. Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
Yeah. Oh, so someone said Yari Curry scored back-to-back hat tricks in the playoffs.
Yep.
I could see that very easily. How big sad will be Detroit that they can't take Brady Martin because he's probably going top 10 after the under 18s. I don't think they'll be that sad. They'll find someone else who's pretty good. But yeah, I mean, I feel like in reality, Martin could very easily go in the top 10. But I mean, I didn't have that. But yeah, a team like Boston taking him, or Philadelphia, or Buffalo, or Anaheim, sure. These teams could all value a guy like that quite a lot. I've heard you say many times you value guys who can play with other good players. Do you apply that in the negative direction? Example, like Hagens with Leonard and Perreault didn't mesh and had a style clash. I think it's that Hagens and Perreault Leonard and Perreault might not have been spectacular players in the first place, but whatever.
They're good players.
They're good players, yes.
And
but
also styles don't always complement each other, right?
Well, I think it's with Hagens, like, I don't think Hagens made them worse, but I think Hagens Perreault was standing at the offensive blue line and was the third man in most of the time, it seemed. Ryan Leonard was the forechecker, forechecker and shooter who also wanted to have the puck on his stick a lot. The reason I saw a guy like Hagens working a lot better with a guy like Teddy Stiga is Stiga's a forechecker who will not hold on to the puck himself. He will turn the puck over, get it to someone else, go to the net, right? Like Hagens is a guy who wants to have the puck. Stiga can play with the puck too, but he's at his best when it's like off puck, forecheck, pin guys, create a free loose puck and get it to someone else. Neither Leonard or Perreault really did that well. They were very much like Leonard was more of a hit a guy, get the puck, shoot it. Perreault was a really good finisher. So with Hagens, Hagens is a really good playmaker. And I think as well, he's a really good puck carrier, a really good transition guy who the holes in his game really are just like getting scoring chances for himself, cutting through defenses, penetrating the middle of the ice a little bit more on his own. And I think you can work on that, but I also don't think that you absolutely always have to do that to be a really good offensive NHL player, considering the other things he does. Vegas looked slow. They did kind of as big of the fan base the Leafs fans have. I don't understand why the arena is so quiet during the game. I would argue that it's not that quiet.
It's not been in the playoffs.
It's not in the playoffs. I mean, look, the thing is with Toronto, and I've lived here my whole life, and I feel like I have a pretty good gauge on the psyche of the city. Mm-hmm. The Toronto Maple Leafs have everybody on a razor's edge of anxiety, where it's not that they don't have fans. It's just that most Toronto fans are like waiting for them to screw up rather than I'm here to support them winning.
Yes.
Like you go to Montreal, win or lose, Montreal fans are loud and crazy and insane. And I love that. In Toronto, they have been damaged and hurt so bad over the years that fans there are like, we're going to wait and see what happens. And in the playoffs, but the second that there is hope for Toronto, the fans go nuts. And I think in the playoffs, it's very different.
And then
they lose it.
And then they go back to being sad and depressed. Like when I met my boss at Sportsnet, when I interned there, I asked him, "Oh, so what team do you support?" He's like, you know the team. Mm-hmm. That was the response, was like, I'm in this, unfortunately. Like that's kind of the attitude towards being a Toronto fan. But also, yes, there is, like, going into what this person said about rich people.
Oh, big time.
It's big time. Look,
It's bad.
I'm not gonna
Like-
I'm not gonna pretend I don't come from a place of decent money. Okay, like my family has season tickets.
Yeah, you've got season seats.
So I am a part of that. It's business tickets. It's not
I
like
would
it's
not,
personal.
but I would not call you a suit. You are not one of those fans.
No.
I guarantee you that.
No.
AJ is out of his mind, I think.
I'm
you
nuts.
are a fan.
Yeah, I start screaming at the players.
Yeah.
And it's not like I'm far away from them.
Yeah.
William Nylander knows how much I love him. I'm sure of it.
Yep.
Because I've yelled it at him.
Yep.
But anyways, like there are a lot of people that show up, same sort of seats all the time. They're talking business a lot of the times, talking about deliverables. There was one guy who just wouldn't shut up about deliverables the whole time I was at a game, and I wanted to lose my mind. And then he's like, I'm more of a Kadri guy than a Nylander guy. I don't understand why they didn't move Nylander. And I'm like, you're stupid. I'm sorry. You're stupid. This is the problem with corporate people, okay? Don't understand anything. They just sit around and move things and say, "Oh, this is how we want to do things." But like
Toronto,
it's a rich environment. But you go ahead.
Yeah, Toronto's the finance capital of Canada, and I mean, my mom, I remember, she'd get Leaf tickets all the time from work. Like that's like the Leafs are so wealthy, not because of like individual citizens paying them a lot of money to go get tickets and whatever. They get paid a lot of money by companies to have seats.
My family
and
included.
Blocks of seats. And then companies will resell tickets that they can't find uses for.
Yes.
But it's seen as a business opportunity to go to a Leafs game for a lot of people, right? Like it's just not the way it is. And whether you like it or not, it doesn't matter. That's just how it is. Like if you want to criticize it, it's the system itself. Like the Leafs are gonna, if someone's willing to pay $150,000 a year for season tickets, they're gonna take their money. Whether it's Scotiabank or Jim Smith, who lives down the road from you, who drives a Porsche every day, even if there's snow. Like there's gonna be that. It's just the way it is, right? So if you don't want it to be that way,
too bad you don't have money.
You got it. Well,
you can't outbid those people.
You drive to Ottawa and go to a game at the Canadian Tire Center if you want that.
Yeah, like that's why there's a lot of good traveling Leafs fan crowds, because those are the diehards that go and actually support the team in a way that's not this business casual environment. Like all the because in the lower bowl section we have food service. Like people take our orders. Like the usher knows me. The service, Will was there with me. The server guy's like, "Hey man, welcome back," because it's like that's just the culture there.
Yep.
So it is a bit of an elitist, not an elitist, but it's like it's for more affluent people in the first row. And but I never said I was affluent. Don't try and take my money, please.
Well, you're just like a legacy, right? Like it's been like decades you've had.
Yeah, they've had since it opened. We've had the tickets, same seats.
So just legacy. All right. Is Landon Sim the best hockey prospect in the universe by far? Who's your small king? Oh, by the way, the Marlies picked him up. He's insane and psychotic and gonna be fun. Who's your small king this draft? Probably LJ Mooney. Like LJ Mooney at the U18s. Again, I'm stunned more people aren't talking about just how freaking good LJ Mooney was at the under 18s. He was electrifying.
And he's got NHL bloodlines.
And he does have NHL bloodlines.
Logan Cooley is his cousin. And
if you didn't know,
I said I would put out the game tape this week, but Tony just sent me the interview, so it'll be up next week, I promise. No, I actually promise. I solemnly swear. Okay?
In Domini Patre. Okay. Who's your small king this draft? Like, I would say LJ Mooney. LJ Mooney. I mean, it depends also. Like, if Adam Banach goes in like the 5th round, then that's another one. That's kind of nutty. And I feel like Carolina's going to draft Adam Banach in like the 5th round, and it's going to be hilarious. I'm perplexed who the Canucks should pick. I mean, hey, look, if Victor Eklund, I think it's Victor Eklund if he's there. I can't see Vancouver not drafting a Victor Eklund. It just makes too much sense. And at that range, that would be a great player to land in that range. And I think it's possible. Small winger who is not North American, that is like check, check, check for plummeting in the draft relative to where they should go.
Oh, you missed the
Best
question
skater.
about how much money you'd give Evan Bouchard.
Oh, I don't know. I did look at Puckpedia during the show to see who's making like there aren't point a game ish defensemen that are making less than like $9 million.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck into paying him that kind of money. Like, and long term in this cap environment, you might be looking at 10 million.
Well, think about what
Which-
Darnell Nurse makes.
I mean, if you pay him less than what Erik Karlsson got, which is $11.5 million, and you have him for 7 or 8 years, then I think you do it. Like, I think you get enough
So
offense
tough,
out of
man.
him.
It's so
I think
tough.
I think you need to find a better partner for him to play with. But
He plays with Ekholm generally,
offense-
doesn't he? That's usually
Right.
who he plays with.
and that works, right?
That
Like
works.
I am comfortable with what Bouchard brings to the game. Like people often focus on literally the worst moments, but you see the aggregate of things. Like remember Cody Franzen in Toronto, obviously not as offensively talented as Bouchard, but a guy who made mistakes, but through it all was really effective. And I feel like a $10 million deal, like Rasmus Dahlin got 11 and it's his first year this year. Like that's the market for guys who score a lot of points on defense. There is not a single one like Josh Morrissey, maybe at 6.25.
But was
but-
he even like this good when he got that contract?
No,
Because he kind of
I
had
don't think so.
He had a, I don't want to say resurgency, but he had more of like his coming out party in terms of being a real legitimate number one defenseman. Because in the COVID year, he
Yeah.
was terrible. Like, this was a guy
Like-
who was not very good at all. And then Rick Bowness came in and unlocked his true potential and made him be the style of player that he should
Yeah.
have been in the NHL the whole time.
You know, like Jake Sanderson, first year of his extension, and he's younger. He got an $8 million deal. It's just over 8. So
do you
is
value more?
if you are Evan Bouchard's agent, do you go into the negotiation going, Jake Sanderson, we're better, but Bouchard's better than Sanderson. You're gonna offer us less than what Jake Sanderson makes? No way. Right? Like you're kind of forced into signing a pretty big deal.
Well, they can look at their own internal cap with
Sure.
with Darnell
But-
Nurse, and he makes like what $9 million,
9.5.
Nine and a half. Yeah,
And I would easily have more money going to Bouchard if it were relative to Darnell Nurse.
and how much money
like-
do they have next year? Oh, convenient, 9.4.
Yeah. Unless you want to run the risk of going to arbitration with him and you just go, let's see what an arbitrator comes down on if we screw around a little bit, but I don't think you want to do that. I don't know if you actually want to go that route unless you
No.
absolutely have to.
No,
But I think it'll be somewhere in the 10-ish, maybe a little more, something like that.
Yeah,
Because
it's
the
gonna
cap
be a
going up.
lot. It's gonna be a lot.
it's gonna be a
And
lot.
Also, it's gonna be interesting to see what Noah Dobson gets to because they're both
Yes.
they're like equivalent players. They are very
Yeah.
much similar players in terms of play style and like I think Evan Bouchard is a little more hectic in terms of
Yep.
his highs are much higher and his lows are much lower. And Dobson didn't have a great year this year, but the Islanders just didn't have a great year this year. Hence
Yeah.
why Matthew Schaefer is coming to the rescue, or Michael Misa,
Yeah.
whatever they decide to do. So it's going to be
Yeah.
interesting. And there's honestly a variance of a couple $1 million in this. Like me personally, and I think I'm thinking back to like, not as without the cap inflation. Like I would want to pay 8, but there's no way that that's going to get it done, unfortunately.
No, it's not going to work.
Especially with a guy like
Okay. The best skater who should go second round or later. Well, I mean,
who's the guy I like the most, essentially, is what that is. I like fast. But that's what best skater means to me. Who can skate the fastest?
right. Who can go? I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't put Svirchek in there. Maybe, I mean, in terms of fast, like like I've watched Leo Sundqvist in the SHL playoffs. He just finished losing the SHL finals, so he sucks. But he played good minutes throughout the playoffs in the SHL this year, and he is fast as hell. Like if you wanted some fun, go look at number 23, I think, or something on Brunus in the playoffs because he is fast. Other than that, like Mm, I don't know. Like this draft just drops off so fast. Like Eric Nilsson, if he's not a first round pick, probably is part of that group. I mean, Sverchek is a great skater. He is. Bill Zonin, I mean, he's not an amazing technical skater, but he gets around real good. Who else? I don't know. Boumedien's a pretty good skater. Maybe he goes second round. Cameron Reed, Cameron Reed's a really good skater. I wouldn't say he's fast, but he's a really good skater, and he might be a second round pick. Yeah, there's a few. Lou is gone. The Isles embrace a rebuild. Third overall, Korchinski to the Islanders for Dobson. Yeah, Korchinski in third overall to the Islanders for Dobson. I mean, yeah, I guess if I'm the Islanders, I might make that deal. That would be kind of fun, but we'll see. It would be fun though.
It would be interesting.
I think we're overdue. We're overdue for some craziness at the very, very top end of the draft. I think we're overdue for some nuttiness in terms of like who's picking and drafting and trading and all that
So we're
stuff.
saying that the Islanders are getting the first and third overall pick in this.
Wouldn't that be something though? Wouldn't that be something in the beginning of a rebuild?
So what, they can do Schaefer and Higgins?
Yep, maybe.
And then Korchinski.
They might not. They might only need to get like the sixth pick. You know, who knows with Higgins? I don't know. We'll see. Thoughts on the WHL draft? All I know is Maddox Schultz is good, and the names are elite. That's all I know. But we'll have Joel Henderson on at some point to talk about the WHL draft because I know he's very, very, very tied to it. What prospect do you think could have the highest jump in perception due to combine performance and pre-draft interviews? Kayshawn Aitchison, 100%. He is a gym rat. He's a great personality. They're gonna love him. It's gonna happen. It's just gonna happen.
Super accommodating person as well. We were having we had technical difficulties filming that thing, and like we tried for 20 minutes beforehand, and he was like willing to work through all these processes with us. Like you reset, not like, yeah, I get it. It's what a lot of people would do and like trying to work with other people, but like he reset his Wi-Fi twice, and we really tried to get his camera. It just didn't work out, but he was so excellent with us. So
yeah, he's good.
He's a really great dude.
Apparently you were wrong about Scott Lawton. It's what you need to win. Scrub Yunkin and the 31st pick is worth 2 years of Lawton.
Be sure about where he plays in the lineup before you say that, because he's actually a fourth line center. But you know what? He's been actually really good at chaining play together in these one-touch moments. Like without his one-touch battle in the middle of the ice, like we don't get the Max Domi goal, because he just chained the possession together really nicely and did it with a lot of contact. So I appreciate him a lot more than what I did originally, but I still feel like just the motor is not there to the point where I'd love it. And I like Nikita Grubyankin more, I'm sorry. But Scott Lawton is a more useful player than I made him out to be. And sometimes just got to sit and wait before you make judgments. But I saw enough in 3 games where I was like, nah, he's bum cheeks, man. But he's doing all right. So power to him. Right. And I apologize, sir. I apologize.
Frondell better than Misa. I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest. I mean, Frondell's more physical. And if that's what teams are really looking for, then that's what teams are really looking for. That's all I can say on that. That's the only way I could see a guy like Frondell being seen more favorably than Michael Misa.
Better is relative.
But you know what? Yeah, better is a bad word. I also just don't like it. Adam Fantilli is better than Connor Bedard. I did say that. That's literally how I feel, 100%. Do you ever compare data on time it takes to skate between blue lines from prospects and then track the same data when they're in the NHL? Curious how much faster they get. Honestly, oftentimes it's slower. Like the NHL it's this weird thing that happens, and I think you see it a lot in the playoffs too. Like the NHL is the players are so good that they don't want to screw up, so they slow down. Like it's pretty rare to see guys really, really fast all the time in the NHL. I mean, I think it's what could work, but if you're coaching a system, it is much harder to play that system if you're going really, 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 really fast, right? Just for your brain. So I find a lot of the time the NHL is slower. I haven't got a huge data set on that, but I have done it here and there in the past. And it's why I kind of don't really use blue line to blue line time as like a really important thing. It's more of just like a reference for like, okay, in a game scenario, if I need it, this guy can do this, right? In a game scenario, this is what this guy's capable of, is really all I use it for. But I don't use it as a real major evaluation tool for like projecting them.
I also feel that you kind of want to be a little hidden too as you're skating in,
Yeah.
and then burst once you get into the offensive zone to try
Yeah.
and change your own pace and throw people off, because you're getting seen in peripheral vision with shoulder checks and whatever else, and then just changing your pace on a dime
Yeah.
to then create a chance and throwing people off guard. That's kind of the
Yeah.
way you want to attack things
Yeah.
sometimes.
Will Anaheim pick the biggest player in the draft? If they pick Rio Kaiser 10th overall, I will eat that yoga mat. If they pick Rio Kaiser, because he is the biggest player in the draft. If they do that, I will eat that yoga mat.
Okay, so
But
remind us, or
Yeah,
I'm gonna. You
remind
know
us
what?
during the
No.
draft.
I'm gonna remind you to bring the yoga mat with you in case
yeah,
that
it'll
happens.
be here.
But it has to be at.
Yeah.
It has to be a 10th overall, like when we're doing the draft live stream with everybody.
I will agree to eat 1/10 of that yogurt mat that yoga mat.
Yeah, pour yogurt on it to make it.
I'll pour yogurt on it to make it more palatable, but I will eat 1/10 of its square footage if 10th overall we see Rio Kaiser go to the Anaheim Ducks. Now I'm thinking that that's going to happen, and that would be epic, but I don't think it's going to happen. What are your thoughts about the Mammoth logo? It's pretty cool. Personally, I'm in the minority, but I would have kept Hockey Club. I thought
I
it was
would have as
cool,
well.
and I would have changed the logo to the Yeti, and you get around that trademark problem, and it's a colloquial thing. But I thought Hockey Club, I was used to it. It's kind of cool, and Utah Mammoth is fine, I guess, but I don't know.
I like
It's
it
all
though.
right.
You know what?
It's
I like
fine.
it.
I don't hate it. Yeah, like it's good. I think it'll be cool. You know, it's better than like Outlaws or Renegades or Wildcats
dude.
or
Outlaws was
know,
just.
Chicken Jockeys.
I swear, chicken jockey.
The Utah Chicken
I
Jockeys.
swear to
might
God,
have
though,
more.
Outlaws was literally just they took the NHL render
Yes, they did.
or like the EA
100%.
render, and that's the team
Yeah.
name I never considered because the logo was so mid.
Yeah, exactly. Let's keep moving here. A lot of that. Who's better, Victor or William Eklund? I don't like that question, so I'm not going to answer it.
We'll find out. That's the answer. to
No,
the
I mean
question.
more skilled offensive is William, but like more projectable physical 200-foot guy, definitely Victor. I see Max Jones and Bills on it. I mean, maybe, but I think he's bigger than Max Jones, and I think a little bit smarter moving the puck than Max Jones is.
Is Max
But
Jones
I don't-
playing in the playoffs?
I don't think so. I don't know, but I mean, I don't know. I just love Bill Zonin, and he's a guy that I would want on my team. How do you feel about this philosophy of drafting from Seattle? I mean, I'm just going off of my understanding and thought there, and I think it's the way to go. Like, you don't think about position. You just go, who do we think is going to be the most useful player in the NHL at the end of the day? You know, who is the one that does the hardest things the best? And who is the one that we think will bring the most to this team? And figure it out later. And I know that they have a lot of mathematics that kind of back things up, which kind of makes me think that maybe Jackson Smith won't be the guy, but I just think that also they'll bet on like the potential in his game and like the skill level and the talent, and they've got lots of WHL impact already. So maybe that's the way it goes. Do you think Lyndon Lakovic could play center? Maybe, but he hasn't played center all year on a team that definitely could use a center in Moose Jaw, and I think that's pretty telling. But maybe. I'd like to see it tried, but either way, I could go either way. What do you think of Jack Nesbitt's rise in most rankings? I think it's crazy. I was watching the U18s religiously for puck preps, and Jack Nesbitt was a guy. Like look, if it happens, it happens, right? Like, to me, like I go watch Jack Nesbitt and I go back and think about guys like Nathan Gaucher, who also were like a second round pick to me, maybe. And he went top 16. And it's like, at the time, even then, I was like, I don't know about Gaucher, but I can at least see more of an NHL role for a guy like Gaucher than Nesbitt. Like, I just think Nesbitt is like Dwight King, like where it's like this big dude who is on your fourth line, who plays 10 minutes a night and is there. Like, I just don't see much with Nesbitt in terms of real upside outside of just he is tall. Like, and he's a better a better skater than he was last year, which is still not awesome. Like, I don't know. I just, and I talked to Jordan the other night, who was also watching NHL guys, and he was watching Jack Nesbitt, and he agrees. Like, it would be pretty wild. Tony's watched a bunch of Windsor, and he's told me many times, like, I did not think for a second that Jack Nesbitt was a guy that would be a first round pick in the NHL, but it seems like he's going to be there, and we'll see what happens. Maybe I'm wrong. The logic behind McQueen being a high pick is he has a sick name. Yes, that's true.
That's all you need. Like, I swear to God, that's all you need.
Cool names. Yeah.
Why do you think dude, Fabian Lysell, I literally fell in love with the idea of liking Fabian Lysell, because like there's a guy named Fabian, like Fabius Maximus from like the Roman general. That is so sick.
If you were the Sharks, would you trade Dallas's first and 33rd overall for Tom Willander? Probably, yes. I would love Porter Martone to fall to us at 8. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. I think it was Scott Wheeler who had that in a mock draft that came out this morning, I think. So I think, I mean, and if that happens, then great. Do you think Brady Martin can... Oh, we answered that during the show. Hot take. Caleb Desnoyers is a supercharged version of Danton Heinen. I don't even know what that means, but it kind of makes a little bit of sense in my head, but I don't know. I don't want to spend too much more time in my life finding reasons to make it look like I despise a hockey player, which I do not. The only reason I would be opposed to drafting Murka... Oh, we did that. Yeah, apparently I'm forgetting that Martin is a Sioux Greyhound, which means he's going to Pittsburgh. Maybe, but Toronto didn't draft Sioux Greyhounds, did they? They didn't. They drafted Rasmus Sandin, but
they drafted the guys that were there with Dubas. Dubas likes his guys. I don't think it has anything like...
I don't think Brady Martin is his type of player.
Yeah, I just think it's all, who is Kyle Dubas comfortable with?
Yeah. Yeah, originally wanted Bear for Detroit, but the Achilles is off-putting if Eklund falls. I mean, if Eklund falls to Detroit, then I could easily see that too. But they don't usually draft small dudes super high. It generally doesn't happen, especially fast, like small, high-paced guys.
But they do like their Swedes.
They do like Swedes. That's true. It could very well be Eklund for sure. Carter Bear, I mean, I wouldn't be so worried about an Achilles injury for a hockey player. Like, your ankle is pretty, it's pretty well shielded. I think that was kind of more of a freak thing, and I think it was a full tear, which I think is easier to heal than a partial tear, but I could be wrong on that. I might be outdated on my knowledge on that, but I don't know. I'm not super concerned about it, honestly. The Pope is a major influencer. Imagine all the jersey sales. That's true. That's true. Leo the 14th on the back of a jersey or whatever he is. Yeah, that would be fun.
William Atelius, Michael Jr., insert all other 14 of his names in there. Nylander, the Pope. Come on.
Yeah. While you mocked Frondell to Philadelphia, what do you think they would prioritize if they went with picks in the 20s if you were them? I mean, are you saying like if they traded back? Because I think they do have picks in that range.
I think it's a pick. I think it's the Is it the Leafs pick or is it a different pick?
They have the Leafs pick because
so it's going to be 32. I'm sorry to break it to you.
Right. You'll get. I mean, look. In my opinion, there's going to be a good player available there. There always is good swings to take in the NHL draft, like almost always. At least in the first few rounds. So there's going to be players at 20 where I would be very interested in picking them. Colin Potter might be one of them. Would he be a good Philadelphia Flyer? I mean, I think he would, but I don't know if the Flyers and their fans would think he's like their type of guy, but I think he'd be a very good player if you picked him in there. Like a Lyndon Lakovich could be a good pick in that range. Ben Kindle could be a really good pick in that range if he worked out. Who else? Yeah. In this year's draft, like I said, I spoke to someone a few days ago, and they said from 6 or 7 until 25, I don't care. It's just a wide open, whatever you want. Call it what you're rolling a dice basically at that point. So there's going to be guys who might end up a third liner, second liner, middle pair, bottom pair, something like that. They're just all fine.
So I looked,
and there's going to be a few of those.
The Leafs gave up a 2027 first. So it's actually Edmonton and Colorado's is what it looks like to me.
All right.
Based on this. Yeah, that's what I'm seeing.
Cool. All right.
It was the
Well,
Sean
where do we
Walker
go?
pick.
The Sean Walker pick. Got it. Okay. One of the things Vanaker came once the rust came off from the injury is used as his skating. I don't know if that's up Frondell's alley. I mean, keep in mind, Frondell was also injured this season too. I wouldn't say Frondell's skating is something that holds him back really at all. And again, like you mentioned, Vanaker once he came back from injury, and it's been a year since he got drafted, right? So we're not there with Frondell yet. So what if he does the same thing in a year, right? We're at the same place. So I wouldn't think about that too much. Do you think the answer to Montreal's second line center issue is Demidov? No, I don't think so. I mean, if they wanted to try him at center, then like he's a really good open ice player, but
just let him do his
don't
thing
know.
and don't
Yeah.
don't burden him with defensive responsibilities. It's like William Nylander came in as a center, and yeah, he's excellent anywhere in the ice or on the ice offensively,
Yeah.
but just let that guy do his thing offensively and look for somebody to carry the workload a bit more defensively. Like that's what Nick Suzuki's there for. On the top line. Not that you're going to find another player equivalent to Nick Suzuki to actually like bolster the second line necessarily, but I would not be surprised if Montreal is like, let's put these assets to use and trade for somebody. Like I would inquire about Elias Pettersson. I'd ask about it and try and find something like it. Why wouldn't you at this point?
Yeah, you look elsewhere, I think.
Because
yeah, I don't think it's Demidov.
Or
I mean, maybe I would try it, I guess, but like I wouldn't put my hopes on that being a thing. GTA 6 thoughts. I honestly have not seen the updated trailer.
I haven't seen it either.
And look, I trust Rockstar Games. I trust them. You know, Red Dead 2, really good. I trust them. So maybe I'd pre-order it. But I also refuse to pre-order games just in general. I'm going to wait until it comes out, see if it's as good as everybody says it is, and see what happens. I love Grand Theft Auto games personally. I am a huge fan of them. And I'm glad that I have until 2026 to wait because there's other stuff that I want to do, especially in the off season, and we'll get there. I still have to beat all the Nubby's Number Factory challenges, so we'll get there. But yeah, I mean, I'll have it at some point. I will play it, and I will get all of my internal violent urges out in digital form for sure. Actually, it's kind of funny. Something I kind of like to do sometimes is play Grand Theft Auto as if I'm just a regular person and just like slowly drive around with traffic and just kind of, mess around. And yeah, I mean, it's not all the time. Well, usually like 45 seconds of that. And I kind of like maybe 2 minutes. And then I just floor it and just like go nuts and turn back into the insane criminal that you're supposed to be. So
see, I didn't grow up on Grand Theft Auto games because my mother was like, no.
Oh, I did.
I did not. I did not even get to play Call of Duty until I was like 15 because my mother's like, all the other stupid parents can let their dumb kids play those games. That was literally what she said. And then when my friends would ask me, so why don't you play these games? Well, my mother thinks your parents are dumb and that you're dumb. And that's what I would basically say back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, crash out in Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, if you want to see me crash out, I would, that definitely, Grand Theft Auto is a good place to do that. I mean, I will say also, I've been playing a lot of Expedition 33, and I haven't done it obviously on camera, but you want to see a game that has made me crash out a few times. Holy frick. That some of those big mini bosses or whatever in that game, usually you beat them eventually, but freaking frig off. Like Gross Tet can screw right off. He can, I'm glad that what happens to him at the end of that battle happens to him, honestly, or them, I should say. I don't know if it's a man or a woman. It's hard to tell because it's a sphere of rock with a face. Anyway, real pain to do that one.
And yeah, you are playing Oblivion Remastered because I saw that just pop up. Like, no Oblivion Remastered ? You are.
Oh, I am, but I haven't in a long time. It's been Expedition, and I think about to finish Act 2 of that game. I think that's where I'm at, but we'll see.
I'm just a basic EU4 enjoyer.
Yeah, you're a 4X Civ guy.
I am just trying to chase down as many achievements as I can at the moment.
Yep, achievement hunter.
I got 5 yesterday.
imagine Montreal taking Bear and Zonin back to back. That would be fun. While you mocked Frondell to Philly, what do you think? Oh, we answered that. We are well past that actually. Yeah, LJ Mooney was unreal at the U18s, and yes, I agree. Definitely outplayed Cameron Schmidt for sure. But
He's not Canadian.
yeah, he's not Canadian.
And he doesn't have Jerome McGinley's backing. So
true.
I swear that's why Craig
Cameron
Button
Schmidt
put him up on the list so high, because I'm sure he talked to Jerome McGinley about him.
Although having Cameron Schmidt and LJ Mooney in the draft class this year is extremely possible, and having both would be hilarious. Like LJ Mooney passing the puck to Cameron Schmidt would be sick. It would be a good time.
Sounds like Carolina. Carolina's just gonna get Cullen Potter, LJ Mooney, and Cameron Schmidt.
Adam Banak, and they're just gonna who are the 6'3" forwards that will bring more than just physicality, who will drop to later rounds? Kucharczyk, Koblar, Mundi. Yeah, I mean, you said Koblar. I think he's a really good one. Mundi is interesting that you brought him up. I don't know if you're Swiss or what, but that's a good pull. He might be an interesting one. Like drop to later rounds. Like Harry Nancy. Like Harry Nancy would be a really good pick later in the draft.
One of the best names, honestly.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Felix in the chat. Koblar for sure. Norwegian bias.
Sure. Yeah, friggin' Norwegian. I guess he's home. I guess he's back in Norway. So
I think he's heading on a flight.
Oh, he's heading on. Oh, okay. Well, get out of my country.
Yeah, have a beer with me. Get out of my country.
Yeah, exactly. Owen Griffin. I like Owen Griffin. I honestly like him. I don't have him ranked, but I like him. I just feel like projecting him to the NHL is really, really hard. He is small, and he plays kind of small, and I don't know. Like, I feel like he's got enough like skating ability to sort of maybe make a push at an NHL gig, but he's definitely one of the more fun and skilled players I don't have ranked. Him and the guy in Spokane, what's his name? Martin something? Owen Martin, maybe? But yeah, Owen Griffin, I like him. Good player. And if he came up as like a mid-late round pick, I would not say no. But I just don't know about projecting to the NHL. But I also haven't seen him in a while, so I'll have to go check him out. Is this difference between Martone and Misa that large? Martone sometimes looks like he could gel with what the Sharks have, even if Misa may have a better overall career. I mean, I don't think so, but I think Misa is a more like involved and creative and like just overall intelligent. Like, I don't want to say Martone's like not a smart player, but Misa just like builds this map of the ice that's like just unbelievable. And he manages to just constantly create chances, whereas Martone is just kind of a shade behind that. And as a winger, I think that also takes away some value. But I mean, hey, if it's Martone at 2 for San Jose, that kind of makes sense. But they do have a lot of wingers. Like, they've drafted a lot of wingers recently.
And I don't think Will Smith's the center.
No, I do not think Will Smith is your solution at center long term.
So you get your 1-2 punch, in my opinion. You have a guy who can just do a lot. And it's not that he's necessarily like this unreal goal scorer is Michael Misa. He is just so bloody smart that he just puts himself in the best position to score goals. And he's at a level where he's so much more advanced than the guys in the OHL that way. So that's why I think he runs up the point totals, especially on the goal side, a lot more.
Yeah. Louis-Antoine Deneau is an inch taller than Rio Kaiser. Well, if Louis-Antoine Deneau, if a 6'8" goaltender goes 10th overall after a 902 save percentage this year, then yes, I will eat that yoga mat too. If it's Rio Kaiser or if it's Louis-Antoine Deneau, I will eat 10% of that yoga mat as long as I can put a little bit of yogurt on the yoga mat before I eat it. Definitely in the minority. Hockey is an affront to the sport. This isn't soccer. No, but it should be more like soccer. Hockey, the NHL needs relegation. Number one, the NHL needs relegation.
Oh.
And the NHL, yes, it does.
No, it
yes,
does
it does.
not.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
The NHL is the most socialist sport in the world, and I thought we hated socialism. We need relegation to hold these teams accountable, and Hockey Club would just be one step in the right direction. You know, I don't know. I think it's fun.
I like Hockey Club.
Yeah, but whatever. There's nothing we could do about it.
What do you think?
We didn't make the decision.
Also, what do you think the HC stands for in like the Canadiens logo. It's hockey club, is it not? Club de hockey, I swear. I
I thought the H was the habitant.
No,
like
I think it's hockey club. I'm pretty
like the Habs.
No, I think it's hockey club. Pretty sure it is.
Now you have me thinking. I'm gonna Google it. Team identity, crest and sweater design.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I don't mind saying I'm wrong, but that's what I remember.
The H stands for hockey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is club. Club de hockey canadien.
See?
Club
So it's
Club
literally
Athletique.
literally on the oldest team in the NHL.
Yep.
That exists.
Yep. Okay. You should check out who's trending on the list of elite prospects right now. Oh boy.
I tried to
know
look, but EP's website is not very fun to navigate.
Number one name is Colby Armstrong's kid, so there's that. I think he just got drafted in the WHL. But I mean, there's a lot of WHL draft guys as well as Balázs Szabok, a Hungarian guys on there for some reason. I also saw Jakob Josefsson's on there, who apparently is making a comeback after a few years away due to concussions, I think it was. But now that all his buddies with Djurgården have done the hard work to get back in the SHL, he wants back in. So that's a joke, by the way. It's not actually me making fun of a guy with a bunch of concussions. Am I wrong in saying Bear has dropped on many lists with injury concerns? You're not wrong. That's literally what has happened. Top 3 D+1 year players who didn't play in the NHL this year. Okay. I mean, Cole Hudson had a hell of a year. I'd say Parekh, Hudson, and Buyam.
Well, he played in the playoffs, to be fair.
Sure, okay, he played in the playoffs. So Cole Hudson, Zane Parekh, although he played one game. He played one game for Calgary and scored a goal, so maybe he doesn't count.
I guess he doesn't. I guess you know what? Let's just do it broadly then. Like make it the 10-game cutoff type thing.
Yeah. Then I would say those guys. Cole Hudson, Zeev Buyam, and Zane Parekh were all excellent this year, I thought.
All defense?
All defensemen. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yeah, the new pope is Leo, so hear me out on Leo Carlson's new nickname. Well, there's been 13 other Leos before this, so they could have chosen those, but I guess now it's much more on the nose and in there.
Yo, Brock Lesnar's son got drafted in the WHL.
Yeah, Brock Lesnar's son.
Yeah, let's go. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh my God. Who is this person? Forgot about Albin Laaksonen. Who are you? Like Albin Laaksonen, like there's only like 3 people in the world who have probably ever seen him play. And one of them is Mikhail. And then he told me to watch him and I did. And you apparently, unless you're Mikhail Holm when they're a different username. But like, I like Laaksonen. Again, like a mid-late round pick and you get a power guy who's big and hits, like you could do a lot worse. And Laaksonen is an interesting one. I actually have a game of his to track. I just haven't been able to track a game in like 3 weeks. But yeah, Laxonen's a good one too. All right, that's going to be it for today. Yeah, we got it. We're done. So again, great turnout today. Thanks for joining us. I'm sure we'll have plenty of shorts to cut out of this to post as the mock draft happens. And so if you want to share it with all your friends and have them yell and scream at me for good or for better or for worse, then you'll have your opportunity in the next few days. But
being mad at Will is fine because it drives up engagements. Just don't go too crazy, please.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to crash out in my comments, go nuts. You know, it's fun. I don't care.
Scrub some of them, you know, like I want funny zingers.
Yeah, the auto moderator, you know, usually is okay, but regardless, we'll just have some fun. We'll post them and see what happens. It's going to be good. But thanks for joining me. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait for everything to be completely out of date in about 3 weeks and think about how silly it was to do this early. But
nobody's going to watch this video
nobody's
then.
Gonna watch.
And
nobody's going to watch this then. Yep.
This won't exist.
Exactly. We're going to scrub it all from the internet. Anything that makes me look bad, we're going to just scrub it. That's it. This is a dictatorship. But anyway, thanks for joining us. This was a ton of fun, and we'll see you Monday, probably in the afternoon because of the playoffs. So yeah,
it'll depend.
Monday,
I don't know what my work schedule is, but either Monday or Tuesday, guys. One of the two.
All right. Well, until then, we'll see you.
Toodles.
Enjoy your weekend, and
the Leafs are going to win the Stanley Cup. I said it.